Chapter 44-17 Happy Feud. The mute girl looked at Yun Chujio worriedly, but she still quietly bypassed Manager Zhang and the others and walked down the mountain. Manager Zhang snorted in disdain. Bitch, did you see that? Mute is so tactful. If you are as tactful as her, I promise to let you have a good life. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Didn't you want to kill me? Let's attack together, a group of trash. Manager Zhang said exasperatedly. Bitch, do you still think you're the insufferably arrogant Ing Ching Luo from back then? The three of you don't just stand there, come on. The three servants were usually Manager Zhang's lackeys, so when they heard that, they charged towards Yun Chujio. Manager Zhang's face was filled with an evil smile. Soon, this bitch knew what would happen if she offended him. Just as he was feeling pleased with himself, he heard a gust of wind behind his ears. He hurriedly dodged to the side. Although he staggered for a moment, he managed to dodge the attack from behind. He focused his eyes and saw that it was actually the mute girl. He could not help but curse. Are you tired of living mute? Didn't I tell you to get lost? How dare you attack me? Are you courting death? The mute girl was expressionless. The machete used to chop wood in her hand slashed at Manager Zhang once again. Manager Zhang was simply angered to death. It was fine if that slut Ing Ching Luo did not listen to him, but this mute who had submitted to him had actually rebelled. He was really courting death. Manager Zhang pulled out his large machete and fought with the mute girl. Manager Zhang originally thought that he would be able to kill the mute girl in a few moves. Who would have thought that even though the mute girl's elemental energy was one rank lower than his, she actually fought to a draw with him. This was because the mute girl usually kept chopping wood, while Manager Zhang lived in luxury. Regardless of whether it was experience or stamina, he wasn't a match for the mute girl. Manager Zhang was extremely flustered and exasperated. However, he thought that when those three people finished dealing with that slut, they would naturally come over to help. At that time he would reward this mute to those three people to play with. Just as Manager Zhang was thinking, he heard a miserable cry. He used the corner of his eye to look and saw that a servant had already collapsed on the ground and died. What surprised him more was that there was a big brick on Ing King Luo's head? Didn't they say that Ing King Luo's spiritual sense was damaged and she couldn't summon a spirit soul? Why did she summon it again? Besides, Ing King Luo's spirit soul was a spirit crane. How did it turn into a big brick? The two people who were fighting with Yun Chujio couldn't help but panic when they saw that one of their companions had died. Especially when they saw that Yun Chujio's chest had been stabbed by a sword and she was still fighting with them. How was this possible? If it were an ordinary person who had been stabbed in the chest, not to mention fighting, they would probably lose their lives. How could she be fine? Yun Chujio did not have the time to waste with them. Very quickly, she killed the two men at the cost of a few more holes in her body. Then she walked to Manager Zhang, who was fighting with the mute girl. Manager Zhang looked at Yun Chujio, who was like a god of death, and his legs suddenly felt weak. He said, You can't kill me. If you kill me, the captain will not let you go. Yun Chujio laughed lightly. You still talk so much nonsense on your deathbed. Shut up. She immediately joined hands with the mute girl and killed Manager Zhang. Yun Chujio put the 4 corpses into her storage ring and then looked at the mute girl with a smile. Little sister, I knew you wouldn't ignore me. Isn't this feeling of gratitude and revenge wonderful? Chapter 44-18 Yun Kai, who helps others. The mute girl opened her mouth and finally asked hoarsely, What should we do next? Perhaps because she had not spoken for a long time, the mute girl's voice was very hoarse. Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. Was she not going to pretend to be mute with her? However, it was also true. The two of them were now in the same boat, so they naturally would not worry too much. Cover up the bloodstains and traces of the fight here, then throw their bodies to Demon's Grimace in front. Don't worry, no one will care whether these idiots live or die. They'll be fine in a few days, Yun Chujio said indifferently. The mute girl nodded, and together with Yun Chujio, they covered up the bloodstains and traces of the fight on the ground and then came to Demon's Grimace. The Ghost's Grimace was located on the north side of the Crest Mountain. It was a bottomless valley with clouds and mist surrounding it. It was impossible to see what was underneath. However, it was said that the royal hunting team had sent a team down to investigate, but none of them came back alive. Hence, no one dared to think about coming here again. Since the royal hunting team did not dare to come to this place, the others naturally did not dare to come. Hence, there was basically no one here. It was suitable to be used to destroy the corpses. Yun Chujio threw the 4 corpses in her storage ring down. Just as she was about to leave with the mute girl, a large brick floated out from between Yun Chujio's brows. Then she aimed it at Yun Chujia's back. Hei Xingjiu did not expect that her own spirit would plot against her, so she fell straight into Gue Jianqiu. While the mute girl was stunned, the large brick knocked her off Gue Jianqiu. As Yun Chujiu was falling, the first thought that flashed through her mind was, damn that huge brick. Luckily she could conjure or she would have fallen to her death. Hence, she conjured herself into a bird and realized that it was fucking forbidden to fly here. She quickly conjured herself into a wisp of mist and slowly descended. However, she soon heard the mute girl scream and had no choice but to transform into a huge cloud, supporting the mute girl as she slowly descended. The mute girl did not know that the cloud was Hei Xingjia's illusion. She could not believe her eyes. Oh my god, she was saved by a cloud. When she was about 10 feet away from the ground, the cloud suddenly became smaller and the mute girl fell to the ground. However, such a distance would not hurt her anymore. Yun Chujiu took the opportunity to transform into Yingqing Luo and landed on the ground. The mute girl looked at her in surprise. Yingqing Luo had landed earlier than her. Why was she landing later than her? However, her mind was completely focused on the cloud just now. Her eyes were sparkling as she said, I was saved by a cloud just now. Are you the same? Yun Chujiu shamelessly nodded. Yes, me too. The clouds here like to help others. The mute girl looked up, but she couldn't tell which cloud was the one that had saved her. However, she saw the big brick floating down proudly. Yun Chujiu saw the big brick showing off and was so angry that she hacked at it with her sword. You dumbass. Are you planning to kill your master? I'm going to chop you into a mahjong card today. Unfortunately, the big brick was so fast that Yun Chujiu could not hit it at all. Moreover, it felt that it had not played such a game for a long time. It was so happy. The mute girl was speechless as she watched from the side. What kind of master would have the same kind of spirit? However, it was rare for a spirit to be so agile. Who was this person who was pretending to be Qing Luo? Chapter 44:19 The identity of the mute girl. Although the mute girl was very curious about Yun Chujia's identity, she did not inquire about it. Instead, she looked at the surrounding environment. The 4 corpses that they had thrown down earlier had already been smashed into pieces. Other than that, there were also some scattered bones on the ground. Some were human and some were origin beasts. Other than that, there was nothing unusual about it. It seemed that it was no different from other valleys. However, she knew that this was just a facade. After all, this was the place where even the royal hunting group did not dare to come down. Hei Xingjiu chased after the brick for a long time. She could not do anything to the brick, but she was so tired that she was panting. The mute girl stopped her, pointed at the top and said, How do we go up? Yun Chujiu stopped chasing after the brick and looked up with a frown. She could turn into a cloud and float up, but what about the mute girl? Although turning into a cloud could slow down the mute girl's falling speed, it was difficult to bring her up. Although there was a rope in her storage ring, it was too high and the rope was not long enough. Yun Chujiu looked around and found some vines growing on the cliff wall. She walked over and tugged at them. She found that they were very strong and her eyes lit up. She could use these vines to pull the mute girl up. Miss, come here. Let's cut some vines. Although the mute girl did not know what Yun Chujiu was planning, she still came over to help cut the vines. Yun Chujiu could not hold back her curiosity and asked with a smile, Miss, we can be considered friends through thick and thin. Shouldn't you tell me about yourself? Maybe I can help you. The mute girl's hand froze. Perhaps it was because she had been suppressing herself for too long, or perhaps it was because Yun Chujiu was the only person who had shown her kindness. Her eyes were slightly red, and there was a shimmering light in them. She hesitated for a moment but still said slowly, You might not believe it, but I am Princess Mei Yan. Yun Chujiu was stunned. Princess Mei Yan? Is she the Princess Mei Yan who is going to marry the crown prince of the Yan clan? The mute girl revealed a hint of mockery on her face before she shook her head. I am not the Princess Mei Yan that you are talking about. Yun Chujiu was confused by what she heard. What did she mean? The mute girl's expression was very complicated at this moment. There was resentment, helplessness, and a hint of confusion. She said in a hoarse voice, Do you know? Although my mother passed away after giving birth to me, I have been doted on by my father ever since I was young. Among the many princes and princesses, no one has a higher status than me. My father even gave me the royal hunting group. Chapter 44:20 Princess Mei Yan. The mute girl was filled with grief and indignation. Her anger was instantly dispersed by this fellow's words. This was the first time she had heard someone use such a disdainful tone to talk about Princess Mei Yan. The others were all praising Princess Mei Yan. However, she had to admit that this fake Qing Luo was indeed different from the others. Perhaps she could really help her? Yun Chujio saw that the mute girl was stunned and urged, "Why are you stunned? You haven't answered my question. Did she really die of love?" The mute girl came back to her senses and sneered, "How could a person like her die of love? What a joke." The mute girl did not continue this topic. Instead, she changed the topic and said, "The ghost race is different from the human race. The human race can reincarnate, but if the ghost race dies, their soul will dissipate. They don't even have the chance to possess and can only disappear completely. However, there are still exceptions. Humans normally have 3 souls and 7 spirits, but occasionally there are people with 4 souls and 7 spirits. Even if such people die, they can reincarnate and be reborn. Another situation is to use an evil technique to temporarily seal one's primordial spirit. Then, one can find a junior who was born on the same day, the same month, the same day, and the same time to possess. This way one can be reborn." What the mute girl said was very new to Yun Chujio. It was the first time she heard such a statement and she had a vague guess. The mute girl revealed a trace of hatred and continued, "When Princess Meiyan knew that she was about to die, she used sorcery to seal her primordial spirit, but she said that she was going to die for love. It's so funny. How could a selfish person like her die for the sake of Xingzun?" Hearing the mute girl's words, Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief. Although she did not care if Princess Meiyan really died for debeiming, she would feel a little uncomfortable. The royal family has an ancestral motto that is only passed down to the emperor. That is, no matter the cost, once Princess Meiyan's birth date is compatible with Princess Meiyan, she must be carefully nurtured to prepare for Princess Meiyan's possession. When my mother was pregnant with me, father was ecstatic because he found out through a pulse test that she was pregnant with a girl. Furthermore, the estimated date of birth was extremely close to Princess Meiyan's birth date. However, my mother took action in advance. Father was afraid that I would be born prematurely and miss Princess Meiyan's birth date, so he ordered someone to pour medicine into my mother to delay the delivery time. That medicine was extremely harmful to the human body. Although mother gave birth to me, she died on the spot. In order to conceal the truth, all the imperial physicians and palace maids present were beaten to death. When the mute girl said this, her eyes turned red as she looked at Yun Chujio. She said hoarsely, "So, it's all because of me that mother was killed by them. Those innocent imperial physicians and palace maids were killed by them. I shouldn't have survived in this world." Yun Chujio could understand the mute girl's feelings very well. Back then, because she was kind and soft-hearted, she didn't kill Zhuo Piaoyu and almost harmed her grandfather's family. However, she also fell into this self-loathing and self-hatred emotion. She said faintly, "You can blame yourself and you can understand your guilt. But the culprit of all this is not you. If you want to redeem yourself, then kill those people who harmed others." The mute girl shook her head. "I do want to kill them, but I'm too weak. I have no way to take revenge, so I can only stay here and struggle." "Come, let's finish talking about the matter and then talk about revenge," Yun Chujio said faintly. Chapter 44-21 4 Souls and 7 Spirits. Because of Yun Chujio's interruption, the mute girl calmed down a little and continued, "I didn't know anything about my mother's death. I thought it was just an ordinary difficult labor. Although the princes and princesses in the imperial palace ostracized me because I didn't have a mother, my father has always doted on me. I feel quite happy." The mute girl laughed self-deprecatingly. "It's ironic, isn't it? I've always lived in a cage that they had carefully constructed. How would I know that all they wanted was my body? The other princesses were getting married one after another, but father, on the grounds of loving me, did not allow me to talk about marriage for a long time. He did not even allow me to have any contact with any men. I had always thought that father really doted on me. Later, I found out that Princess Meiyan would only succeed in possessing me if I remained a virgin. One day, I would finally wake up from my dream. 3 years ago, on the 15th of July, they finally revealed their original ferocious faces. After I was drugged, I was brought to an underground palace in the imperial palace. When I woke up, I was horrified to discover that I was in a blood pool. The blood was the blood of infants who had not even reached the age of 1 year. They were simply so cruel that it made one's hair stand on end. In my great fear, I saw the shadow of a woman. She coldly said that she was very satisfied with this shell. She was even very satisfied with the name. I now know that when my father first came up with the name, there was a deep meaning behind it. Meiyan and Meiyan were so close and so ironic." When the mute girl said this, she seemed to recall what happened that day. Her body trembled slightly. Yun Chujio took out a cup of hot water from her storage ring and handed it to her. The mute girl took a few sips before she continued, "I begged my father and Princess Meiyan to let me go. However, they told me the cause of my mother's death and said that I was a jinx. It was because of me that so many people died. While I was in a daze, Princess Mayenne took over my body. I lost consciousness and fell into darkness. I thought that I would definitely die, but I didn't expect that the heavens would not kill me. I was actually born with 4 souls and 7 spirits. After I woke up, I discovered that although I didn't have a body, I didn't die. I was afraid of being discovered, so I quickly hid. Fortunately, I grew up in the Imperial Palace, so I was very familiar with the terrain and hid in the Imperial Palace for a period of time. However, for the sake of safety, I still carefully slipped out of the Imperial Palace and found a hidden place in this coxcomb mountain. I was in constant fear. A month later, I actually condensed my body again, and it was exactly the same as my original body. I was afraid of being discovered, so I used the juice of the red stalk grass to smear red spots on my face. Then, I pretended to be mute and entered the royal hunting group. I entered the royal hunting group firstly to protect myself, and secondly, that Princess Mayenne would occasionally come to the royal hunting group. I wanted to find an opportunity to kill her to avenge my mother. Yun Chujio did not expect the inside story to be so complicated. Princess Mayenne was actually born out of Princess Mayen's possession? No wonder the royal hunting group was mostly looking for things like stealing other people's souls. It was probably used to increase Princess Mayen's strength. After all, her primordial spirit had been asleep for so long and her strength had dropped drastically. If she wanted to become stronger in a short period of time, she would have to take the wrong path. Then the question came. Why did Princess Mayenne marry the crown prince of the Yen clan? Did AOG know Princess Mayen's true identity? Chapter 44:22 Little Uncle Yun Chujio was thinking about it when the mute girl said self-deprecatingly, "Am I dreaming? A good-for-nothing like me can't even protect myself, let alone kill Princess Mayenne and my father. However, I have no other choice but to rely on myself. If nothing happened to my maternal family, perhaps I could still have a shelter. However, how could my father leave such a hidden danger? When I was 5 or 6 years old, my father randomly found a crime to pin on my maternal grandfather. My maternal grandfather's family has either died or been exiled. I reckon that all of them have died." Yun Chujio casually asked, "Your maternal grandfather's family was very powerful in the past?" A trace of pride appeared on the mute girl's face. "My maternal grandfather and my first uncle were all members of the royal hunting group. Furthermore, they were once captains. Back then, when it came to the matter of killing the family's sons, everyone had to give a thumbs up." Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. Surname Sha? It couldn't be related to Sha Wuhan, right? Sha Wuhan had a sheepskin scroll that was used to make ghost talismans. He was quite against the royal hunting group and his way of handling things was obviously different from the people of the lower realm. Moreover, she could see that he also had a grudge against them, but he was just unable to take revenge. Even so, Yun Chujio still felt that it couldn't be a coincidence. However, after thinking for a while, she still asked, "Do you know Sha Wuhan?" The mute girl suddenly grabbed Yun Chujio's arm with astonishing strength. How do you know little uncle's name?" The corners of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. This world was really small. But the problem came. According to what the mute girl said, Sha Wuhan was her little uncle. Then even if he was sent to the lowly domain, his elemental energy shouldn't be so low. Yun Chujio did not hide anything and immediately told her about her own matters. Then she asked, "Young lady, according to what you said, if Brother Sha is your little uncle, although he is not as powerful as your uncle, he should not be bad. Why is his elemental energy so low?" The mute girl sighed and said, "Anyone who is sent must have their elemental energy crippled. I think that little uncle's elemental energy must have been crippled back then. Moreover, he might have survived because he was saved by a loyal servant. Otherwise he would have died a long time ago." However, when the mute girl thought about her little uncle still being alive, she could not help but reveal a little joy. "Young lady, since you are the niece of the one who killed Big Brother, then your enmity shall be on me," Yun Chujio said heroically. The mute girl's expression stiffened. This seniority seemed to be somewhat chaotic. She called her little uncle Big Brother, yet she called her young lady. What was the meaning of this? However, hearing Yun Chujio's words, she was still very moved. "Qing Luo, no, little Gio, I appreciate your kindness, but that Princess Mayenne not only has the military power of the royal hunting squad in her hands, but she also has some masked guards by her side. Their elemental energy are all very strong. You are not their match. Everything depends on the person. However, are you really willing to kill your imperial father?" Yun Chujio asked somewhat uncertainly. The mute girl sneered, "Father? He doesn't have any father-daughter relationship with me at all. He just wants to resurrect Princess Mayenne. Moreover, those babies were so innocent. As the ruler of a country, he killed them for his own ambition. He was worse than a beast. Even if I have to repay my parents' kindness, I have already used my previous body to pay them back. The current me has nothing to do with him. Yun Chujio nodded. This was not bad. If she was given some kind of stupid filial piety, she would have a headache. Chapter 44-23, Someone had arrived, miss. We need to plan this matter carefully. We need to plan it out properly. But don't worry, I will definitely help you take revenge, Yun Chujio said confidently. Although the mute girl was very touched, she did not have much confidence in herself. The two of them were only servants in the Royal Hunting Regiment's kitchen. How could they possibly go against Princess Mayenne? Not only did Princess Mayenne have the support of the royal family, but she also had the royal hunting team. She also had the masked guards in her hands, not to mention that she was about to marry the crown prince of the Yen clan. Such a difference in strength was like the difference between heaven and earth. Would it work? Yun Chujio also knew what to say now. The mute girl probably would not believe that she could help her take revenge. There was no rush. She would believe it sooner or later. At this time, the sky had completely turned dark. Yun Chujio thought for a moment. It was dark and it would be dangerous to drag her up. She should wait until dawn. However, the two of them didn't stay idle. They used their machetes to cut a lot of vines. They used the night time to connect the vines together and save them for the next day. At this moment, Buttface, who was in Yun Chujio's origin beast bag, reminded her, "Little fairy, someone is coming down from above." Yun Chujio was shocked. Why would someone come down? Didn't they say that no one dared to approach Guijiancho? In a moment of desperation, she put the 4 corpses and the cut vines into her storage ring, then dragged the mute girl and ran into the depths of the valley. The mute girl didn't understand, but she knew that Yun Chujio wouldn't harm her, so she didn't say anything and ran along with Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio saw a dent in the stone wall on the left, so she immediately let the mute girl jump on it. The dent was only enough for one person to hide. Just as the mute girl was wondering what Yun Chujio would do, she was surprised to find that Yun Chujio had turned into a lush vine that completely blocked her figure. The impact that the mute girl had suffered was imaginable. When she thought of the cloud that had saved her, she instantly understood that it should be Yun Chujio. Just as the mute girl's heart was in turmoil, the sound of footsteps and voices came from afar. "Princess, you have already captured more than 80 of the pure Yin women that you need. Give me 1 more month and I will definitely be able to gather 100 people. Bring me there to take a look." Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. This damned old witch was probably going to use some sorcery again, so she had to follow her to take a look. Therefore, after those people had gone far away, she said to the mute girl, "Miss, you stay here and don't make a sound. I'll go and take a look." The mute girl was about to stop her when she saw Yun Chujio turn into a wisp of mist and float forward. The mute girl could only pray to the gods and Buddhas in her heart, hoping that Yun Chujio would be safe and sound. Yun Chujio quickly caught up with those people and turned into a small blade of grass that fell on a person's hair. Yun Chujio found that apart from Princess Mayenne, everyone else was wearing a mask. They took a few turns and arrived in front of a stone wall. They took out jade tokens and opened the restriction to enter. When another stone door was opened, Yun Chujio saw that there were dozens of young girls locked in the stone room. They were probably the pure Yin girls that the person mentioned. Those girls looked dull, as if they had been fed some medicine. They did not have any reaction when they saw Princess Mayenne and the others. They still looked dull. Princess Mayenne raised a woman's chin with her hand, and her long nails instantly drew a few bloody marks on the woman's face. She said coldly, as expected, "You're young and delicate, not as good as this damn body of mine." Chapter 44-24 Spirit Locking Pearl. Yun Chujio could not help but be puzzled. What did Princess Mayenne mean by her words? Didn't she possess Princess Mayen's body? Why was she not young anymore? At this moment, Princess Mayenne cut the faces of a few other women. She said coldly, "It's all that damn bitch's fault. I didn't expect it to be the legendary 4 souls and 7 spirits. I don't know if the extra soul is dead or hiding somewhere, but there has been no news. If I can't devour the extra soul, even if I use the blood pool to cultivate, I can't maintain my current appearance. It's really detestable." A masked guard said, "Princess, you don't have to worry. As long as I gather all the people and pour their blood into the blood pool, you won't look old anymore. Also, isn't the Royal Hunting Group already helping you collect the items on the list? As long as you have those items, You will recover your strength very quickly. Princess Mayen snorted coldly, they are all a bunch of trash. The people from the royal hunting group had only found a few things. If it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't find the items and that they couldn't maintain their appearance, why would I postpone the wedding date? Yun Chujia's heart moved. No wonder the wedding date was delayed. It was because there was something wrong with this old witch's appearance. After Princess Mayen finished speaking, she left the stone room and entered another stone room. As soon as the stone door was opened, Yun Chujio smelled a strong smell of blood. She looked up and saw a pool filled with blood. She did not know if there was an array formation or something added inside, but it was bubbling. Princess Mayen did not avoid the guards at all. She took off her clothes and walked into the blood pool. She could not say that there was nothing. There was a bright red bead hanging around her neck. She did not know what effect it had. Princess Mayen entered the blood pool and said with a seductive smile, "How do you think my current appearance is compared to the past?" The guard who spoke earlier immediately said, "Princess, beauty lies in the bones, not in the skin. Even if this bodice appearance is not as beautiful as your previous appearance, as long as you possess it, it will be peerless. No one can compare." Yun Chujio thought to herself, this guard is a talent. His ability to suck up to others is really good. Princess Mayen was obviously very pleased, but she sighed and said, "What's the use of being beautiful? Didn't the Lord still ignore me?" Yun Chujio thought to herself, that's right, how could her pretty boy take a fancy to such an old witch? However, I heard from Aog that the Lord appeared in the Dark Continent before, but it seems that he has been reincarnated. Xingzun, you have to be careful. As long as I take the opportunity to enter the Dark Continent by marrying Aog, I will have a chance to tie the Lord tightly by my side, and I can also hold the Yen clan in my hands. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. What a shameless old hag. She actually still coveted her pretty boy. Sooner or later she would be tortured to death. After a while, Princess Mayen stroked the red bead on her neck and said, "Do you really think there's someone who can change his form at will? Could it be that that person was lying to me?" "Princess, whether it's true or not, as long as he activates the spirit-locking bead with essence energy, he won't be able to change his form within 1,000 feet. Even if you don't activate it with essence energy, you only need to wear this spirit-locking pearl. He won't be able to transform within 3 feet of you again, so you don't have to worry," said the guard who spoke earlier. Yun Chujio's heart trembled. The red pearl on this old witch's neck was actually the spirit-locking pearl? Fortunately, she did not act rashly. Otherwise, she would definitely die a horrible death. Chapter 44-25 gave the old witch a hard time. Yun Chujio could not help but feel lucky that the guard she was hiding in was not very popular, so she was quite far away from Princess Mayen. Otherwise, she would not have been able to turn from a light fog into a blade of grass. However, this old witch had the spirit-locking pearl on her, so it would be difficult to kill her with her abnormal physique. She had thought that it would not be difficult to deal with this old witch, but now it seemed very difficult. It seemed that she had to take a long time to plan. Princess Mayen soaked in the blood pool for about 2 hours before she came out. Yun Chujio found that there was not a single trace of blood on her body, and her appearance was much more beautiful than before. Princess Mayen took out a mirror and looked at it for a long time without any clothes on. She said with satisfaction, "The effect of the blood pool is really good. We will come back in half a month." After the guards complimented her, Princess Mayen put on her clothes and led the guards out of the cave. Yun Chujio remembered that the mute girl was still hanging on the stone wall. She had to quickly turn into a vine to cover herself. Otherwise, it would be terrible if the old witch found out. Fortunately, the guard she was hiding with had been walking at the back. She landed lightly in the grass and turned into a light mist. Then, she quickly passed Princess Mayen and the others and turned into a vine at the place where the mute girl was hiding. The mute woman finally let out a sigh of relief when she saw Yun Chujio return. However, she did not dare to make a sound as she was afraid that she would be discovered. She tried her best to conceal her aura so that she would not be discovered. A moment later, Princess Mayen and the others came over. They did not sense anything unusual and quickly disappeared. Yun Chujio was afraid that those people would return or that there was something fishy going on. She turned into a mist again and followed them. Only when she realized that those people had climbed up the rope did she confirm that they had really left. However, it was also true that no one would come to Ghost's Grimace, so they naturally would not be worried that their secret would be discovered. Yun Chujio recalled that the mute girl had mentioned that there was once a small team in the royal hunting group that had lost track of Ghost's Grimace. When she thought about the blood pool, she thought that those people had probably been killed by Princess Mayen. This old witch was really ruthless and extremely perverted. Although she did not have the strength to deal with the old witch now, it was still not bad to give her some trouble. Hence, she asked the mute girl to wait for her on the stone wall while she returned to the stone wall from before. Although there was no jade token, this cave did not have any powerful array formation. Yun Chujio immediately floated in through the cracks. Yun Chujio first floated into the stone room with the blood pool and transformed into an ordinary-looking young girl. Then she took out some medicinal powder from her storage ring and smiled sinisterly as she sprinkled it into the blood pool. Didn't that old witch want to stay young forever? She would turn her into a toad that could not be seen. The moment she thought of Princess Mayan's frightened and angry look, the smile on this fellow's face became even more sinister. After Yun Chujio sprinkled the medicinal powder, she finally arrived at the stone room where the girls were imprisoned. Although these girls had been poisoned, it was not a poison that was difficult to cure. Moreover, Hei Shinjio had Go Weiba, so the poison was never a problem for her. Yun Chujio took out some herbs, crushed them and poured the juice into the girls. The girls were at a loss at first, then sobbed. Yun Chujio frowned. Why are you crying? Is crying useful? If you want to live, shut up. The girls did not dare to make a sound and looked at Yun Chujio nervously. Chapter 44-26. The Red Skeleton Kowtowing. Listen up. Princess Meiyin has been possessed by Princess Meiyin. Because you are pure Yin women, you were captured and used to maintain her appearance. If you want to live, find a hidden place to hide after you go out. Don't get caught again. Otherwise, I won't have time to come and save you a second time, Yun Chujio said coldly. The girls more or less knew the truth from the guards, so they nodded their heads when they heard Yun Chujio's words. Yun Chujio continued, if the real Princess Meiyin picks up the big flag and fights with Princess Meiyin, I hope you can come out and testify about Princess Meiyan's crimes. The girls promised that they would do it. Yun Chujio did not expect that they would all come out and testify. However, as long as some of them came out to testify, it would be enough. At least, it would allow the mute girl to stand on the moral high ground. However, the question that was placed in front of Hei Shinjio was, how to bring these girls out. If the ghost talisman was used, it would create too much of a commotion. This guy could only force Blackbeard to help. Blackbeard was rarely cooperative and helped Yun Chujio find the core of the array. After Yun Chujio closed the formation, she let the girls out and told them to wait 2 miles away. The girls did not dare to disobey and immediately walked 2 miles away. Only then did Yun Chujio enter the cave. After opening the formation, she once again turned into a light mist and floated out. This fellow was just about to go and meet the girls when he heard the sounds of fighting coming from ahead. Yun Chujio's heart sank. Could it be that Princess Meiyan's people had returned? She hurriedly leaped over, only to discover that those young girls were fighting with some vampire bats. Those young girls had been locked up for a very long time, and their physical strength was exhausted. Their origin energy had not completely recovered. Fortunately, there were many of them, so they did not suffer any losses. Yun Chujio instructed them to disperse those vampire bats. At this moment, the mute girl also rushed over. However, she had always been cautious, and her face was covered by a veil. The mute girl was a little confused when she saw so many people. Furthermore, Yun Chujio had changed her appearance, so she did not recognize her. She could not help but worry. It was only when she saw Yun Chujio winking at her that she heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that Yun Chujio had changed her appearance again. Yun Chujio was about to leave with the girls when she suddenly stopped. Something was not right. Weren't those vampire bats unique to the Ghost Abyss? Why did they come to Demon's Grimace? Yun Chujio thought about it. It was still early in the morning anyway. She wanted to see what was going on. Hence, she brought the mute girl and the girls and chased after the vampire bats. They walked all the way to the end of the valley and saw a black cliff with many vampire bats lying on it. Yun Chujio saw the black cliff and had an idea. Previously, in order to avoid scamming it, the bone spirit suddenly disappeared with the inheritance prison. Could it have run here? Yun Chujio touched her chin and her eyes were full of bright light. It was a black cliff and vampire bats. It was most likely the inheritance prison. Immediately, she ordered the girls to disperse the vampire bats on the cliff. Bonehead, we're going to meet again. I'm a little excited. At this moment, the red skeleton in the inheritance prison was already trembling. Although Yun Chujio had changed her appearance, the red skeleton could still recognize her. It was as if it was a dog that was crying in its heart. It had already run to the Imperial region. It had already run to Demon's Grimace. How could it still meet this pervert? The red skeleton knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Oh heavens, oh earth! Hopefully this pervert did not have the ripple flower in his hands. This way she would not be able to make the archway appear, and she would not be able to come in and find trouble. Chapter 44-27 Female Bandit. The red skeleton soon fell apart. That was because it saw Yun Chujio take out a lot of ripple flowers and let the women mash them up before smearing them on the black cliff wall. Yun Chujio saw the arch on the black cliff wall and couldn't help but curl the corner of her mouth. Never to see it again? Bonehead, what a coincidence. They were going to meet again. The mute girl looked at the arch on the black cliff in surprise. How did little Gio know that the flower's juice could make the arch appear? Wait for me outside. They'll be out soon. As Yun Chujio said this, she stuffed a bunch of ghost talismans into the mute girl's hands. She wasn't afraid that these women would get greedy because without her help, they wouldn't be able to leave this ghostly sorrow. The mute girl nodded. She had seen how Yun Chujio could change her form at will, so she was not worried that she would be in danger. After Yun Chujio finished making the arrangements, she took out the jade token and walked in. When Yun Chujio saw the words Prison of Inheritance, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Bone Spirit, you sure have guts. Not only did you sneak away but you also left me a message. You are courting death. The red skeleton was already on the verge of tears. If it knew that it would meet this little demon again, it would definitely have left quietly without taking a single cloud with it. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. It stammered, well, little lady, I am just playing with you. Stop talking nonsense and let me in quickly. Otherwise, I will blow up the door of your prison of inheritance. Yun Chujio said impatiently. Although the red skeleton was unwilling, it could only let in those who came in with the jade token. Therefore Yun Chujio entered the inheritance prison for the third time. Bone Spirit, do you want me to blow up your skulls layer by layer, or do you want me to go to the 18th floor? Don't talk nonsense about only going to the 18th floor when the time is up. I will give you 3 numbers. If you don't get me to the 18th floor, I will start smashing golden eggs. The red skeleton was about to cry. How was this a challenge? This was a fucking female bandit. However, it couldn't do anything to her. Moreover, it was certain that if it didn't do as she said, this troublemaker would really smash the skull into pieces. Thus, the miserable red skeleton directly teleported Yun Chujio to the 18th floor. Just as the red skeleton was about to start the inheritance test, Yun Chujio frowned and said, Alright, what's there to test? I've already seen the ghost talismans on the 1,000 talismans. Your test is also a waste of time. Let me ask you, other than the various inheritances, do you have anything special here? If you give me that special thing, I'll leave. I have a lot of things to do. I don't have time to waste with you. The red skeleton that was scolded like a grandson heard Yun Chujio's words and immediately stammered, I am in the inheritance prison. Where would there be anything special? Little Grandaunt, I'll give you some origin tools and pills. Please leave quickly. Otherwise those people outside will be anxious. Yun Chujio sneered, Bone Spirit, you've already lied to me once. If you still don't behave this time, I'll find your hiding place and beat you to a pulp. Although the red skeleton was a little scared, it felt that it was impossible for Yun Chujio to find its hiding place. Therefore it cried and said, Little ant, I really don't have that special thing that you said. You'd better leave quickly. Chapter 44-28, Special Item. It would be a miracle if Yun Chujio believed it. She was certain that the red skeleton was hiding on the 18th floor, but where was it hiding? The red skeleton saw Yun Chujio's gaze sweeping back and forth. It could not help but kneel on the ground again, praying to the gods and Buddhas, hoping to avoid this disaster. Yun Chujio swept her gaze around and did not find any flaws. The red skeleton could not help but heave a sigh of relief. As it said, she could not find it at all. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio's gaze would suddenly stop at one spot, and she said faintly, Bone Spirit, do you need me to invite you out? When the red skeleton saw Yun Chujio looking straight at it, it immediately felt like dying. How did she find out? This pervert. Yun Chujio naturally found out by relying on the black bead. It had to be said that the black bead's performance was very good recently, and it was worthy of praise. The red skeleton cried, Little lady, it's not that I don't want to give it to you, but if that thing were to appear in this world, it would attract a disaster. So I can't give it to you. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes, then can you at least lend it to me to take a look? Anyway, if you don't teleport, I won't be able to leave. What are you afraid of? The red skeleton whined for a while more before finally taking out a jade box and throwing it to Yun Chujio. I'm not trying to scare you. This thing really can't appear in this world. You can just take a look at it. After you're done, return it to me. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with it. She opened the jade box curiously and wanted to see what it was. The moment the jade box was opened, the thing entered Yun Chujio's mouth before Yun Chujio could take a closer look. The red skeleton let out a roar and immediately jumped out without concealing itself. It pointed at Yun Chujio and said, You actually swallowed that thing? Spit it out. Yun Chujio spread out her hands. I'm sorry, it has already been digested. It's impossible to spit it out. Yun Chujio had already seen that thing when she used her inner vision to look at her dantian. It turned out that it was a black bead that was the same as the 2 beads that were swallowed by the Taotai Ghost Market. In the end, it was naturally swallowed by the black bead. No wonder the black bead acted so cooperatively. It turned out that one would not wake up early without benefits. Damn it, she knew that these scammers were all scheming dogs. She counted with her fingers again. The black bead had already swallowed 4 beads. Could it be that it was going to gather 7 beads to summon the dragon god? However, forget about the dragon god. The little lecherous dragon that the gigolo took in was useless. When the red skeleton saw that Yun Chujio was determined not to return the beads, it immediately burst into tears. You pervert. You devil. We agreed to just watch. Why did you swallow it? Yun Chujio kicked it with her foot. Get lost. If you continue to dawdle, it'll swallow you too. The red skeleton immediately stopped howling. This pervert would be fine even if he swallowed the bead. Perhaps he could really swallow it too. It was better not to provoke her. Moreover, everything was predetermined. Since the bead had already been swallowed by her, it was better to quickly send this disaster away. Just as the red skeleton was about to teleport Yun Chujio away, it saw Yun Chujio say with a smile, Bone Spirit, let's discuss something. When the red skeleton saw Yun Chujio smile like a wolf with a big tail, it immediately had a bad feeling. It felt that what Yun Chujio was going to say was definitely not a good thing, but it still stuttered and asked, What? What is it? What is it? Chapter 44:29 Swore to never obeying. Do you see those girls outside? They have nowhere to go now. If that old witch, Princess Meiyin, finds out, they will die. I thought about it, hiding in your inheritance prison is the safest place. Anyway, the old witch can't enter without a jade token. The red skeleton immediately understood what Yun Chujio meant. Did she treat this place as a sanctuary? Outrageous. Only a pervert like her would come up with such a perverted idea. How awesome was the inheritance prison? How could she treat it as a sanctuary? Don't even think about it. You don't have to say it. I won't agree to it. Even if you smash me into a pile of bones, I won't agree to it. The red skeleton said as if he was ready to die. Qi Ling also had a bottom line. Humph, it would never agree to it even if it died. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. Bone Spirit, I originally thought that Qi Ling like you was more high-end than other Qi Ling, but now I see that it's just so. The red skeleton was instantly attracted by the words high-end, high-end. It moved closer to Yun Chujio and asked, Little Grand Aunt, why did you think that I was high-end, high-end? Yun Chujio glanced at it and said, Because you were afraid that the bead would bring disaster to the ghost region, so you have been guarding that bead. It can be said that you are taking the lives of the people as your responsibility. It is really admirable. Qi Ling, you are not a tool spirit, the red skeleton said. Normal tool spirits only know how to calculate some small profits. How can there be such a big scheme like yours? Compared to you, the other tool spirits are all flirtatious and cheap. They are not comparable to you at all. The red skeleton instantly felt comfortable. It was too comfortable. Every bone seam was extremely comfortable. That's right. How could those flirtatious bitches be compared to it? Qi Ling was not an ordinary Qi Ling. It was a Qi Ling that took the lives of the people as its own responsibility. Bone Spirit, I did think so before, but you actually refused to temporarily protect those young girls. This has really let me down. Once Princess Meiyin, that old witch, obtains these girls, she will not age. She will use her beauty to collude with the Yen clan, and she will bring disaster to the common people. Before Yun Chujio could finish her words, the red skeleton said righteously, Stop talking, I've decided to take them in. I was just teasing you just now. How can a tool spirit like me who cares about the world just sit back and do nothing? Qi Ling laughed. Just let them in later. Leave the rest to me. Yun Chujio was secretly happy, but she said on the surface, Bone Spirit, I told you. You don't look like a Qi Ling who just stands by and does nothing. There are benefits to taking them in. If you have nothing to do, let them dance for you and sing a little song. It can also relieve your loneliness, right? Yes. The bone spirit thought about it and agreed. After all, it wouldn't do much to let them stay for a period of time. It would also be good to earn a good reputation. Yun Chujio and the red skeleton had finished their discussion. Only then did they let the red skeleton teleport her out. Yun Chujio looked at the girls and said, "You guys can hide inside temporarily. This way you won't be afraid of Princess Mayan's pursuit. There's a lot of food in this storage ring. It's enough for you to last for half a year. When I need you guys, I'll come find you guys." These girls were eager to have a shelter, so they immediately thanked her profusely. Yun Chujio thought that according to the behavior of the bone spirit, it would be necessary to torture these girls. Although they would not lose their lives, they would not stop either. She hoped that they would not break down. Chapter 44:30 followed up after Yun Chujio arranged the girls properly. She brought the mute girl towards the exit. When they reached the exit, Yun Chujio transformed into a cloud and floated up. She hung down the vines and pulled the mute girl up. The two of them found a quiet place. After Yun Chujio disposed of Manager Zhang's 4 corpses, she took advantage of the night to return to the royal hunting group. In order to avoid leaving any evidence when they were about to reach the entrance of the 5th team, Yun Chujio asked the mute girl to wait in a quiet place. She then transformed into a black ant and crawled near the 2 guards. Yun Chujio secretly poked the sleeping powder on the ground, and the 2 guards quickly fainted. Yun Chujio transformed into human form and called the mute girl over. When the mute girl was far away, the guy blinked his eyes and made the time for her and the mute girl to return in the registration book to less than 30 minutes. Yun Chujio then placed the 2 sleeping guards in a dozing position. After she felt that everything was safe, she transformed into the abdominal patterned black ant and left again. The amount of medicine she gave was not much. After she left for a short while, the 2 of them woke up one after another. They thought that they had fallen asleep because they were too sleepy, so they did not think too much about it. Yun Chujio and the mute girl's tent was not far from the entrance of the camp. The mute girl did not meet anyone on the way, so the 2 of them heaved a sigh of relief. The mute girl wanted to speak a few times, but she did not know where to start. Yun Chujio smiled. She took out a bag of medicinal powder and handed it to her. Ordinary people would not be able to notice the red vine grass on your face, but if someone who is proficient in pharmacology could see it at a glance, take this bag of medicinal powder. This way you will be like a natural born and no one will be able to see any flaws. The mute girl did not hesitate and swallowed the medicinal powder that Yun Chujio handed to her. "What do we do next?" the mute girl asked hoarsely. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. "There is a great disparity in strength between us and the old witch. We cannot rush it. We can only take it slowly. Now that those young girls have been sent to the inheritance prison by me, it will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens for that old witch to gather enough purine daughters. With this, the wedding date between her and the crown prince of the Yen clan will probably be delayed. We will have enough time to accumulate enough strength to deal with her." The 2 of them washed up briefly and rested separately. Yun Chujio lay on the bed and pondered. She did not know what was going on with the wedding between Princess Meiyin and Aog. Was it designed by Princess Meiyin, or was Aog also up to something? However, no matter what, that old witch, Princess Meiyin, had not gathered enough purine girls, so they would not be able to get married in a short while. Thinking of the medicinal powder added to the blood pool and the image of Princess Meiyin turning into a toad, he secretly laughed out loud under the blanket. The mute girl. The next day, Yun Chujio and the mute girl went out of the camp as usual to chop firewood at Jiguan Mountain. In the evening, when the 2 returned to the camp, the big kitchen was noisy because Manager Zhang and the other 3 servants were nowhere to be found. They reported the news of Manager Zhang and the other 3 slaves' disappearance to the higher-ups. Although the higher-ups sent people to search for them because Manager Zhang and Captain Qi had some connections, they didn't find anything, so they just let it go. It was just 4 slaves. Even if they died, it was nothing. Soon, the higher-ups selected a slave named Sun from the big kitchen to be the new manager. Manager Sun was most likely afraid because of Manager Zhang's matter, so he was very careful. Even his attitude toward the mute girl and Yun Chujio was much better than before. He even assigned 2 male servants to help cut firewood. Chapter 44:31 Heavenly Soul Water. With the help of the 2 male servants, Yun Chujio and the mute girl could go and chop firewood every other day. They would usually burn the fire in the big kitchen. Hei Xinjiu thought to herself that she had been focusing on burning the fire for 100 years. Wherever she went, she would be reduced to a burning servant girl. Although the big kitchen was filled with servants because there were many people coming here to eat, the small channels were the most well-informed. A few days later, Yun Chujio heard that Princess Mei Yen had lost her temper for some reason and killed a few palace maids with her cane. Yun Chujio thought that it was most likely the medicinal powder she put into the blood pool that had taken effect. That old witch must have become a toad. Damn it. The next day, some guards came to the palace to check the entry and exit registers. They also asked about Manager Zhang and the other three before leaving. The mute girl could not help but admire Yun Chujio's thoughtfulness. If the two of them had not changed the register, they would most likely have been interrogated. Although her face was now full of red spots, her facial features did not change much. If she was really brought before Princess Mei Yen, she might be recognized. He Xingjiu was somewhat worried. Her and the mute girl's elemental energy was too low. This cowardly appearance was simply unable to contend with that old witch. However, she suddenly thought of a problem and asked the mute girl, "That's not right. You said that you recondensed your body 3 years ago. Then what happened to your elemental energy? Could it be that the newly condensed body is the same as the original elemental energy?" The mute girl sighed. "I don't know if it's because of my special constitution. When I first condensed my body, I was only at the first level of the origin core realm. However, after my origin energy soared, I reached the current 7th level of the origin core realm in less than half a month. However, I haven't broken through since then." Yun Chujio frowned. What was going on? Cough, cough, cough. "Little fairy, I know what's going on. Do you want to know? Do you think him very smart?" Dog 2 said with some excitement. It had been a long time since this guy had shown his true colors. Recently, Big Brick had lost his favor because of Demon's Grimace. He felt that this was a great opportunity for him to show his true colors. If you have something to say, just say it. If you have something to say, just say it. Are you still waiting for me to beg you? Seeing that Buttface was keeping her in suspense, Yun Chujio said angrily. Buttface said obsequiously, "Little fairy, it's so kind to hear you scold me. I haven't heard you scold me for a long time. I miss you so much." Yun Chujio felt so sad. Other people's spiritual pets were all powerful and lightning fast. Her spiritual pets were either full for free or stupid like Buttface. Fortunately, Buttface had had enough of showing off and finally got to the point. Little fairy, she was born with 4 souls and 7 spirits. Although she has condensed her body again, to put it bluntly, her soul is still incomplete. Under such circumstances, there is naturally no way for her cultivation to increase. If she wants to continue improving her cultivation, she will have to consume the heaven soul water. Otherwise, she will be like this for the rest of her life. Then why did her origin energy soar in the beginning? Yun Chujio asked in puzzlement. Buttface shook his head and wagged his tail as he said, "That's because the extra soul is the host soul, so it contains most of the origin energy of her original body. Naturally, her origin energy will soar." Yun Chujio nodded and asked again, "Where is the heaven soul water?" Dog 2 said proudly, "Little fairy, let me tell you, I'm the only one in this ghost region. No, I, a dog, know the whereabouts of the heaven soul water. When I first arrived at the Imperial region, I was really bullied by the dogs. I also happened to find the heaven soul water when I was running for my life." Chapter 4432, Tiandang Valley. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth in anger when she saw that Buttface wasn't getting to the point. "Buttface, are you itching again?" Buttface blinked his dog eyes and said, "Little fairy, why are you so irritable now? You must be affected by the big brick. You're getting more and more violent." Buttface was afraid that Yun Chujio would go crazy. He quickly continued, "The heaven soul water is in a secret cave in the Tiandang Valley. But there are many high-level essence beasts there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been chased into that cave in a panic." Tiandang Valley? Yun Chujio took out the topographic map and looked. The Tiandang Valley was at the westernmost part of the Imperial region. It was at least 5 or 6 days away from the base. Not to mention the high-level essence beasts there, just this time alone was not easy to handle. If she left her post without permission for such a long time, she was afraid that she would not be able to enter the Imperial hunting group as Ing Ching Luo in the future. Yun Chujio and Buttface used their divine senses to communicate, so the mute girl did not know what the two were talking about. Seeing Yun Chujio frowning in deep thought while holding the map, she asked in puzzlement, "Little Gio, what's wrong?" "The reason why you haven't made any progress with your origin energy is because your soul is incomplete. Unless you can obtain the heaven soul water, your origin energy can only be like this." The heaven soul water was in the Tiandang Valley. Even if one could immediately obtain the Heaven Soul water there, it would still take more than 10 days to go back and forth. It was not very easy to handle, Yun Chujio said with a frown. The mute girl's eyes first lit up and then dimmed. Little Jio, forget it. My talent is not very good. Even if I can find the Heaven Soul water, there's not much difference. There's no need to take the risk. Dog 2 used its divine sense to say, little fairy, what she said isn't right. The 4 souls and 7 spirits aren't to be trifled with. If she can consume the Heaven Soul water, her strength will advance by leaps and bounds. Little fairy, even if you can consume the Heaven Soul water, your essence energy will also increase by a large margin. That's a top-notch good thing. If I didn't rely on the Heaven Soul water back then, I wouldn't have been able to leave the ghost region. Yun Chujio was still hesitant, but when she heard Buttface say this, she immediately steeled her resolve. She was determined to get the Heaven Soul water. However, how could she get the best of both worlds? Sometimes things were so coincidental. The next day, when 2ZG came to visit Yun Chujio, he said, Little Jio, I'm going to leave for a period of time. At least half a month, at most a month. You have to be careful. Yun Chujio asked curiously, where are you going? Captain Luo is personally leading a team to lead us to the Tiandang Valley to hunt purple-feathered ghost Luan. I heard that it was Princess Mei Yen who gave the order, 2ZG said. Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. You mean you're going to the Tiandang Valley? 2ZG nodded and looked at Yun Chujio in confusion. He didn't understand why she was so excited. Yun Chujio didn't hide it and told him about the mute girl. 2ZG frowned. So you mean you want to go with us? Yes, if I go with you, I have a reasonable reason, Yun Chujio said happily. What you said makes sense, but you're just a servant of the big kitchen. Will Captain Luo agree to let you go with us? Yun Chujio curled her lips. It's no big deal. I will go and see Captain Luo now. 2ZG knew that this guy was full of tricks, so he didn't say anything more. After the two of them separated, Yun Chujio went directly to the outside of Captain Luo's tent. After passing the message, she went straight to the point. Captain, I want to go to Tiandang Valley with you. This mission was neither difficult nor difficult. Most of the people in the second team were at the 3rd level of the original Saint Realm. The purple-feathered ghost Luan was a level 33 origin beast, which was equivalent to the 5th level of the original Saint Realm of the Ghost Clan. Although the second group did not have the advantage in terms of elemental energy, they had 300 to 400 people. As long as they cooperated properly, it would not be a problem for them to complete the mission. As Yingqing Luo was very arrogant before, she did not have a good relationship with people in the second group. Naturally, there were people who added insult to injury and ridiculed her. Tsk, isn't this the cold beauty of our second group? How did she end up in the position of cooking for us now? It's not that I don't like what I said, but you're only at the 1st level of Yuanzuan realm now. You can just stay in the big kitchen. Why did you come with us? That's right, you're simply a burden. We still have to divert our attention to take care of you when we reach Tiandang Valley. I really don't know what we're thinking. 2ZG naturally wouldn't sit by and do nothing. He would come out to protect Yun Chujio every time at this time. Everyone even said sourly that the two of them would go out for a trip and come back with a long and messy relationship. 2ZG thought to himself, even if he was a bachelor for his entire life, he would not dare to marry this little devil. Chapter 44-34 The purpose of hunting the purple-feathered ghost Luan. Yun Chujio did not care about these sarcastic remarks. If she was thin-skinned, she would have died hundreds of times. She was just wondering what Princess Mei Yen wanted the purple-feathered ghost Luan for. Moreover, she wanted 10 of them at once. Although the purple-feathered ghost Luan's feathers were pretty, there were many origin beasts that were prettier than it. There was no need to hunt the purple-feathered ghost Luan in such a grand manner. The taste of the purple-feathered ghost Luan's meat was also very ordinary. Yun Chujio really could not think of a reason why she had to hunt the purple-feathered ghost Luan. Yun Chujio really could not understand it, so she did not think about it anymore. Anyway, her goal was to obtain the Heaven Soul water. As for other things, it had nothing to do with her. 5 days later, everyone arrived at the Tiandang Valley. It had to be said that the scenery of the Tiandang Valley was very beautiful. It was no wonder that Dog 2 had taken a fancy to this place. According to Buttface, the place where the Heaven Soul water was located was in the deepest part of the Tiandang Valley. Therefore, Yun Chujio could not make any moves for the time being. She was prepared to make a move in a few days. Everyone rested for a night. The next day they began to head deeper into the valley and began to hunt purple-feathered ghost wands. Yun Chujia's elemental energy was low, so she could only install wooden stakes at the back. Her actions naturally attracted a lot of ridicule. 2ZG couldn't help but admire this fellow's thick skin. No matter how others ridiculed him, this fellow's expression didn't change in the slightest. Everyone's hunt went very smoothly. In just 3 days they had already hunted 6 purple-feathered ghost wands. According to this speed they would be able to return very quickly. At this moment they were already close to the depths of the Tiandang Valley. Yun Chujio decided to search for the Heaven Soul water at night. In any case, Captain Luo had taken her benefits. At that time she could just randomly find an excuse. Therefore that night after everyone had fallen asleep, Yun Chujio turned into a wisp of mist and floated out of the camp. She followed Buttface's command and floated in front of a stone wall. The stone wall was covered with layers of vines. Just as Yun Chujio was about to turn into a human and push away the vines, a voice came from not far away. Yun Chujio was shocked and immediately turned into a vine leaf. Soon 2 people walked over. When Yun Chujio saw the masks on their faces, she immediately recognized that they were Princess Mayan's guards. However, why were they here? Could it be that they were also here to get the Heaven Soul water? I saw that those people have already killed 6 purple-feathered ghost wands. Should we make a move tomorrow night? Otherwise they should leave this place. I don't understand. Why did the princess have to bring them here to make a move? Can't we just summon them into the palace to make a move? The taller man said. What do you understand? These people are from the Imperial Hunting Group after all. If they all died in the palace for no reason, it wouldn't be easy to hide. And this Tiandang Valley is very far from the Imperial City. Even if someone suspects, they won't come over to check. Another shorter man said. The tall guard said snappily, damn it, blame the person who poisoned the blood pool. If it weren't for the blood in the blood pool being unusable, the princess wouldn't have thought of a way to trick those idiots to come here. The short man echoed, yeah, the blood in the blood pool is quite demanding. At least people above the 2nd layer of Yuanxing realm are required. If ordinary people can do it too, we can just capture some people. There's no need to kill these people from the Royal Hunting Group. Yin Chujio was shocked. No wonder that old witch asked the 2nd group to hunt purple feather ghost Luan. It turned out that she planned to use their blood to replenish the blood pool? That old witch was really a pervert. However, she could make a fuss about this matter. It might be a chance for her to rise up. Chapter 44-35. Giant Blue Snake. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, she heard the tall man say, tomorrow I will lead them into the demon subduing and killing array. When their strength is almost exhausted, we will just take their blood. The short man nodded and walked deeper into the valley. Yun Chujio thought for a moment. Anyway, they would only go and trap the people from the 2nd group tomorrow. There was still time. She would go and get the Heaven Soul water first. Therefore, she transformed into an ordinary-looking young girl. She pushed away the vines and discovered that behind the vines was an entrance the size of a dog hole. Yun Chujio used her divine sense to speak to Buttface, who was inside the origin beast bag. Buttface, how did you enter such a small hole? Buttface did not say anything. Although he was thick-skinned, it was better not to say such a shameful thing. Yun Chujio immediately transformed into a light fog and floated in from the cave entrance. She thought that the inside would suddenly open up, but she did not expect it to be as narrow as a dog cave. Yun Chujio directly floated in. After floating for a while, she found that there were several forks in front of her. Buttface quickly said, go to the 5th cave on the left. The others are all dead caves. It's very dangerous inside. Buttface said with lingering fear. Yun Chujio immediately floated into the 5th cave. It was still very low inside and there were many Yuan beast skeletons on the ground. It was likely that Yuan beasts had entered by mistake. Suddenly, the skeletons on the ground began to tremble, and many blue ants crawled out from the ground. Even though Yun Chujio did not recognize these ants, she could tell from the blue fangs on their mouths that these ants must be extremely poisonous. Yun Chujio thought to herself that it was fortunate that she had turned into a light mist. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for her to deal with these ants alone. She did not delay any longer and continued to float forward. After floating for a short distance, she realized that the cave had become wider. Yun Chujio was about to turn into human form when she saw that there were many large blue snakes coiled up on the cave wall in front of her. They were so densely packed that it made her scalp go numb. Yun Chujio could not help but say to Buttface, Buttface, are you sure you remember correctly? Is this cave really the cave that leads to the heavenly soul water? Buttface said with certainty, I definitely remember correctly. However, when I first came in, I did not have these things. Maybe the heavenly soul water turned into a spirit and summoned its own guardian beast. Yun Chujio wished that she could strangle this idiot to death. It was one thing for other things to turn into a spirit, but how could the heaven soul water turn into a spirit? If the heaven soul water was really inside, it would be fine. But if this idiot had remembered the wrong path, she would not let it off. Even though Yun Chujio was now a wisp of light fog, the giant blue snakes were obviously very sharp. Their cold vertical pupils looked at Hei Shinjio. Hei Shinjio cried out in her heart, this is bad. There was no mist in this cave. The sudden appearance of such a wisp of mist would naturally be suspected. She immediately floated forward. Immediately, a few giant blue snakes spat out poisonous liquid towards the mist. Although Hei Shinjio was not afraid of poison, the poisonous liquid split the mist into several wisps. There was no choice. Hei Shinjio was afraid that the mist would be swallowed by the giant blue snakes. She quickly dispersed into a few purple light spots and transformed into a human shape. She ran into the mist as fast as she could. The giant blue snakes were clearly confused. What the hell was that? Why did it turn into a human? Therefore, Hei Shinjio ran as fast as she could in front, followed closely by a string of giant blue snakes. The giant blue snakes were familiar with the terrain, and the distance between them and Hei Shinjio was getting shorter and shorter. Hei Shinjio had no choice but to summon a large brick and let it help her block the giant blue snakes. Chapter 4436 was originally from the same route. The huge brick jumped a few times, but it did not stop the giant blue snakes. Instead, it floated in front of Yun Chujio and escaped even faster than her. Hei Shinjio almost died from anger. This was not a spirit, it was clearly her ancestor. Fuck, begging others is better than begging yourself. Without the damn huge brick, she should be able to get rid of these giant blue snakes. Yun Chujio immediately took out a bunch of ice block talismans and threw them at those giant blue snakes. Those giant blue snakes that were hit instantly turned into ice sculptures. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. Fight with her? She was courting death. Yun Chujio turned around and continued to run forward. The front was getting wider and wider. If it wasn't for the stone wall, she would have thought that she was already outside. The big brick probably felt that it had gone too far just now and shamelessly floated back to act cute. Yun Chujio did not even look at it. Her heart was filled with hatred. After she finished dealing with the ghost realm and returned to the nameless sword sect, she would lock these damn drifters in the puppet plate. She wanted to see how they would continue to show off. Yun Chujio suddenly stopped because her path was blocked by a huge mushroom. Yun Chujio looked at the huge mushroom and thought to herself, this huge mushroom is as big as tens of thousands of Xiaomogu. It is really a mushroom spirit. Xiaomogu, I have seen this big mushroom before, but it was still a small mushroom at that time. I didn't eat it because I was afraid it was poisonous. I didn't expect it to become a spirit now. It must have absorbed the power of the heaven soul water, so it became like this, Buttface said eagerly. Seeing the bad situation, the big brick sneaked into Yun Chujio's glabella. Hei Shinjio was so angry. This damn big brick was getting more and more outrageous. At this moment, the big mushroom suddenly shot out a few spores. Those spores shot toward Yun Chujio like sharp arrows. Yun Chujio didn't dodge. Most importantly, she couldn't dodge either. These spores were everywhere. Even the giant blue snakes that were chasing after her were shot to death. The big mushroom saw that Yun Chujio had been shot into a sieve and fell to the ground. It let out a sound that sounded like it was proud of itself before it gradually burrowed into the ground. However, before its body had completely burrowed into the ground, it discovered that the little girl who had been shot into a sieve had actually stood up and bypassed it. She then ran away happily. The big mushroom was completely dumbfounded. It had already been shot into such a state, but it was still alive? It could still run? Big mushroom immediately shot a few spores at Yun Chujio. Hei Shinjio was miserably shot into a sieve again and she collapsed on the ground. Big mushroom was afraid that this fellow would not die, so it shot another few spores. After covering the sky and covering the earth with its robe, Big mushroom was shocked to discover that the little girl had disappeared. Logically speaking, even if she was shot to death, there should at least be a corpse. However, there was nothing on the ground, so where had that stinky girl gone? While the big mushroom was still confused, it discovered a spore that was sprinting forward. The big mushroom was dazed for a moment before it chased after it. It finally realized that it was not its own spore but that stinky girl's. The big mushroom was both confused and angry. This time it simply did not use any spores. Instead, it extended several huge mycelium toward the spore that Heishinjo had transformed into. Heishinjo dodged and shouted, "Big mushroom, we are from the same root. Why are you in such a hurry to kill us? We are both mushrooms. We are relatives. Why do you have to kill us all?" Chapter 4437 The Resurrection Lily and the Heavenly Soul Water. The big mushroom thought, "Pooey. You shameless person, who is your relative? I will kill you today." Seeing the big mushroom chasing her, Yun Chujio took out a stack of ice block talismans and threw them at the big mushroom. The big mushroom was slowed down by the ice block talismans. Heishinjo took the opportunity to transform into a human and quickly ran inside. "Little fairy, there's a turn ahead. It's where the Heaven Soul Water is," Buttface said excitedly. After Yun Chujio took a turn, she couldn't help but be stunned. She saw that the stone wall above was full of red flowers. These red flowers were the Resurrection Lily. These flowers were extremely beautiful, as if all the power was concentrated at the moment of blooming. The Resurrection Lily, the legendary flower that only bloomed on the road to the netherworld, could awaken the memories of people when they were alive. However, when Yun Chujio saw this Resurrection Lily, the first thought that came to her mind was the Divine Devil Hall. Although she had seen the jade token engraved with the Resurrection Lily many times in the Divine Devil Hall, it was the first time she had seen a living Resurrection Lily. Why were there so many Resurrection Lily here? Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the hot pool below. Could this be the Heaven Soul Water? Little fairy, if that pool of water is the Heaven Soul Water, then the Heaven Soul Water isn't rare, Buttface said with some disdain. Yun Chujio didn't have time to argue with him now. She roared, "Then where is the Heaven Soul Water? The big mushroom will soon catch up with us. Cut the crap." After the hot steam of the pond water evaporates, it will be absorbed by the spider lilies. Their stamens will secrete a kind of liquid, and that liquid is the Heaven Soul Water, Buttface said quickly. Yun Chujio frowned. The mist of the pond water was limited, but the ceiling of the cave was quite high, and there were many spider lilies on it. It would take a long time for the liquid of the stamen to condense into a drop of water. Even a drop was so rare. How long would it take to collect enough Heaven Soul Water? Besides, there was a big mushroom chasing after them. "Can I go up and take those spider lilies back to eat?" Yun Chujio said with a frown. Buttface couldn't help but roll his eyes. It was too barbaric. "Little fairy, you mustn't do that. Only the spider lilies drip Heaven Soul Water on their own initiative, but their juice is extremely poisonous. Can kill people." Hearing that, Yun Chujio had to give up the idea of being a bandit. Since she couldn't gather enough Heavenly Soul Water in a short time, she would play with Big Mushroom first. Yun Chujio let Dog 2 out and threw it a few big metal basins for vegetables. She said, "Then you are in charge of collecting the Heavenly Soul Water here. I'll go play with Big Mushroom." Dog 2's body stiffened. "Big metal basin? Are you sure you want to use such a precious Heaven Soul Water to store it?" However, this guy didn't dare to say anything. He just placed the large metal basin properly and stared at the Resurrection Lily on it, ready to receive the Heaven Soul Water at any time. After Yun Chujio arranged for Dog 2, Big Mushroom also caught up. When Big Mushroom saw Heishinjo and the large metal basin on the ground, its mycelium began to dance again. Big Mushroom was about to make a move, but Yun Chujio said slowly, "Big Mushroom, don't make a move yet. To tell you the truth, you can't kill me. I just want a few drops of Heaven Soul Water and then I'll leave. Why do you bother with me?" Big Mushroom looked at the rows of big iron basins on the ground. Of course, he didn't believe the few drops of Heaven Soul Water that this guy said. 4437 Chapter 4437 The Resurrection Lily and the Heavenly Soul Water. The Big Mushroom thought, "Pooey. You shameless person, who is your relative? I will kill you today." Seeing the big mushroom chasing her, Yun Chujio took out a stack of ice block talismans and threw them at the big mushroom. The big mushroom was slowed down by the ice block talismans. Heishinjo took the opportunity to transform into a human and quickly ran inside. "Little fairy, there's a turn ahead. It's where the Heaven Soul Water is," Buttface said excitedly. After Yun Chujio took a turn, she couldn't help but be stunned. She saw that the stone wall above was full of red flowers. These red flowers were the Resurrection Lily. These flowers were extremely beautiful, as if all the power was concentrated at the moment of blooming. The Resurrection Lily, the legendary flower that only bloomed on the road to the netherworld, could awaken the memories of people when they were alive. However, when Yun Chujio saw this Resurrection Lily, the first thought that came to her mind was, the Divine Devil Hall. Although she had seen the jade token engraved with the Resurrection Lily many times in the Divine Devil Hall, it was the first time she had seen a living Resurrection Lily. Why were there so many Resurrection Lily here? Yun Chujia's gaze fell on the hot pool below. Could this be the Heaven Soul Water? Little fairy, if that pool of water is the Heaven Soul Water, then the Heaven Soul Water isn't rare, Buttface said with some disdain. Yun Chujio didn't have time to argue with him now. She roared, then where is the Heaven Soul Water? The big mushroom will soon catch up with us. Cut the crap. After the hot steam of the pond water evaporates, it will be absorbed by the spider lilies. Their stamens will secrete a kind of liquid, and that liquid is the Heaven Soul Water, Buttface said quickly. Yun Chujio frowned. The mist of the pond water was limited, but the ceiling of the cave was quite high, and there were many spider lilies on it. It would take a long time for the liquid of the stamen to condense into a drop of water. Even a drop was so rare. How long would it take to collect enough Heaven Soul Water? Besides, there was a big mushroom chasing after them. Can I go up and take those spider lilies back to eat? Yun Chujio said with a frown. Buttface couldn't help but roll his eyes. It was too barbaric. Little fairy, you mustn't do that. Only the spider lilies drip Heaven Soul Water on their own initiative, but their juice is extremely poisonous. Can kill people. Hearing that, Yun Chujio had to give up the idea of being a bandit. Since she couldn't gather enough Heavenly Soul Water in a short time, she would play with Big Mushroom first. Yun Chujio let Dog 2 out and threw it a few big metal basins for vegetables. She said, then you are in charge of collecting the Heavenly Soul Water here. I'll go play with Big Mushroom. Dog 2's body stiffened. Big metal basin? Are you sure you want to use such a precious Heaven Soul Water to store it? However, this guy didn't dare to say anything. He just placed the large metal basin properly and stared at the Resurrection Lily on it, ready to receive the Heaven Soul Water at any time. After Yun Chujio arranged for Dog 2, Big Mushroom also caught up. When Big Mushroom saw Hei Shinjio and the large metal basin on the ground, its mycelium began to dance again. Big Mushroom was about to make a move, but Yun Chujio said slowly, Big Mushroom, don't make a move yet. To tell you the truth, you can't kill me. I just want a few drops of Heaven Soul Water and then I'll leave. Why do you bother with me? Big Mushroom looked at the rows of big iron basins on the ground. Of course, he didn't believe the few drops of Heaven Soul Water that this guy said. Chapter 4438. The miserable Big Mushroom Buttface, who was eagerly waiting to receive the Heaven Soul Water, shouted, Big Mushroom, if I didn't show mercy back then, would you still be alive? Now you want to kill my master. You are ungrateful. Are you shameless? Let me tell you, the little fairy can't die. She's a pervert. Also, she's full of evil. She's the worst person I've ever met. If you go against her, you're courting death. Yun Chujio's mouth twitched. Was Buttface sure that he wasn't blackmailing her? The Big Mushroom was stunned. It felt that the aura on Buttface's body was somewhat familiar. So it was him. He actually dared to come back. Today he would definitely tear him into pieces. This damn bastard. It was because of it that it had to bear a huge humiliation for the rest of its life. Today it had to end it. The Big Mushroom suddenly became bigger. The mycelium waved crazily and made a hissing sound. Yun Chujio was puzzled. Why did Buttface's words have the opposite effect? Could it be that Buttface still had a grudge with the Big Mushroom? Didn't Dog 2 say that it didn't eat the mushroom? The Big Mushroom was obviously too angry. The mycelium didn't attack Yun Chujio. Instead, it rolled toward Dog 2. Dog 2 was now a piece of trash. How could it dare to fight with the Big Mushroom? It shouted anxiously, Little fairy, help. Help. This Big Mushroom is crazy. Big Mushroom, you despicable person, you shameless bastard. My strength has greatly decreased now. I won't lower myself to your level. Otherwise, I'll definitely kill you. The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. All Buttface had left now was his mouth. Naturally, she couldn't just stand by and do nothing. She could only block in front of Buttface and wave the sword in her hand to cut the Big Mushroom's mycelium. The Big Mushroom couldn't catch Buttface, so it couldn't help but become angry and attack Yun Chujio. However, even though it had restrained Yun Chujio could easily escape as long as she turned into a purple light spot. On the contrary, Yun Chujio had cut off a few of the mushroom's mycelium. It was unknown whether the Big Mushroom was in a bad mood or not. As it fought, it kept the mycelium and made a whimpering sound. It was actually crying? Hei Shinjio could not help but be very curious. She asked Buttface, who was hiding behind her sneakily, What did you do back then? Why did Big Mushroom hate you so much? Buttface looked innocent. I really didn't do anything. Although I wanted to eat it back then, I was afraid that it would be poisonous, so I didn't eat it. Yun Chujio saw that Buttface did not seem to be lying, so she was curious. Why did Big Mushroom hate Buttface so much? When Big Mushroom heard Buttface's words, it was furious. However, it couldn't speak, so it couldn't say anything. At this moment, Buttface said uncertainly, "Little fairy, I thought about it just now. I think Big Mushroom probably hates me because of that matter." What matter? Well, little fairy, you know that people have 3 urgent things to do. Although I was an ancient fierce beast at that time and could not eat or drink for a long time, I was afraid that I would miss out on the heaven soul water, so I went to relieve myself next to the Big Mushroom. I promised that it would only be one time. Yun Chujio, so this Big Mushroom was dog urine moss. Yun Chujio looked sympathetically at the Big Mushroom that was about to go crazy. With such a great humiliation, it was no wonder that the Big Mushroom would go all out to teach Dog 2 a lesson. Chapter 44-39. It was better to be enemies than enemies. At this moment, Big Mushroom was both ashamed and angry. It wished it could tear Buttface into pieces. It thought that it was born in a noble family, but it had suffered such humiliation. This incident had left an indelible scar on its young mind. It was intolerable. Today it had to kill this random bastard. The more Big Mushroom thought about it, the angrier it got. Once again it went into crazy mode. Unfortunately, Dog 2 had Yun Chujio protecting it. Big Mushroom couldn't hurt it at all. Moreover, Big Mushroom was worried that its fight with Yun Chujio would hurt the spider lilies at the top of the cave. Therefore it was so angry that it couldn't teach Dog 2 a lesson. Seeing this, Yun Chujio couldn't do anything. She coughed twice and said, "Big Mushroom, it's not a good idea for us to be in a stalemate. How about this? Buttface didn't do it on purpose. I'll ask him to apologize to you and forget about this matter." Exactly. If it weren't for the baby's pee, you might not have grown so big. Buttface said shamelessly from behind. The Big Mushroom was so angry that it was about to faint. Yun Chujio glared at Buttface. Buttface shrank his neck and didn't say anything. The Big Mushroom started crying again. It felt that it was too miserable. Who did it offend? It had suffered such humiliation and had no way to take revenge. It didn't want to live anymore. Seeing the Big Mushroom's broken look, Buttface couldn't help but feel a little guilty. At that time he didn't know that the mushroom had intelligence. If he knew that, it would go further and do something else. Dog 2 blinked its dog eyes and said, That Big Mushroom, I did not do it on purpose back then. If you feel that your heart is not balanced, you can also go to the bathroom next to me. I don't mind." The Big Mushroom almost died from anger. It was a mushroom, all right? How could it be convenient? Yun Chujio laughed and said, "That's right. It's better to be enemies than enemies. Dog 2 was young and ignorant back then. It has also apologized to you. Please forgive it." Big Mushroom felt very sad. What could he do if he didn't forgive him? He had no way to teach that bastard a lesson. Big Mushroom, although you and Buttface are not happy, you can say that you didn't get to know each other after the fight. Think about how many old friends you have in your long life. Why do you have to hold a grudge because of some things back then? Besides, no matter if it's a human or a beast, you have to be magnanimous. You can't dwell on the past. Buttface was originally an ancient fierce beast, but now he had become a puppy. Logically speaking, the difference between them was huge. Wasn't he also shamelessly jumping around? Therefore, you should put aside the unhappiness from the past. Well, take a few drops of heaven soul water and leave. It won't affect you, Yun Chujio said with a smile. After being crazy for a long time, Big Mushroom had vented most of its frustration. Seeing that Dog 2 had become such a coward, it felt a little better. However, when it saw several rows of large metal basins on the ground, it immediately expressed its serious doubts about Yun Chujio's few drops. Yun Chujio obviously guessed Big Mushroom's thoughts. She said with a smile, "Don't misunderstand. I put so many basins in order to make it easier to collect them. I don't need to fill them up." Big Mushroom was skeptical, but there was nothing it could do about Yun Chujio, so it could only keep quiet. Yun Chujio could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Although she was not a greedy person, it was still better to take more of this heaven soul water. When the time came, she could feed it to 2 Ziji, Sha Wuhan, and the others. This way their elemental energy would greatly increase and she could have a few more helpers. Chapter 44-40. Buttface obviously didn't know what embarrassment meant. Seeing that Big Mushroom and Yunchujio had stopped fighting, he said eagerly, "Big Mushroom, it's been so many years. I didn't expect you to still remember me. You really have deep feelings for me." The corner of Yunchujio's eyes twitched. She had seen bad people before, but this was the first time she had seen such a shameless person. The Big Mushroom was so angry that it kept twitching. It simply went straight into the soil and ignored this idiot. Buttface said a little embarrassedly, "It's too shy. It's so thin-skinned." Yunchujio, because this was the Big Mushroom's territory, the giant blue snakes didn't dare to come over. Yunchujio just needed to quietly wait for the heavenly soul water to drip. However, it had been half a day and not a single drop of heavenly soul water had fallen. There was a flower on the other side that had condensed a drop of heavenly soul water. It was probably about to drip down. Yunchujio thought about it. At this speed, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to gather enough heavenly soul water. However, the two guards said that they would lure the second group of people into the demon subduing and killing array tomorrow. Even if it was for 2ZG's sake, she could not just sit by and do nothing. Therefore there was a slight conflict of timing. Yunchujio's gaze fell on Buttface. "Buttface, you'll go out and take a look at those people. You stay here and receive the heaven soul water." Buttface immediately howled. "Little fairy, you can't do this. Although Big Mushroom didn't take care of me now, that's because you're here. If you leave, it will definitely tear me into pieces." Yunchujio curled the corners of her lips. "I believe that with your eloquence, you'll be able to convince Big Mushroom to let you go. I'm leaving. See you later." As Yunchujio spoke, she turned into a wisp of light mist and floated away. Buttface wanted to cry, but he had no tears. When he saw Big Mushroom emerge from the ground, he felt that he was most likely going to be unlucky. Big Mushroom let out a proud sound. Clearly, it felt that this was a great opportunity for it to take revenge. Buttface said obsequiously, "Little brother Mushroom, calm down. Calm down. Violence will not solve the problem. Big brother, I sincerely apologize for what happened back then. I will spend the rest of my life repentance for my mistakes. Tell me, how can I make you calm down? Why don't I kill myself? No, if the little fairy comes back and sees me dead, you won't be able to explain yourself. Then won't I have harmed you? Why don't you beat me up? No. My skin is rough and my flesh is thick. If you beat me up, won't it make your mycelium hurt? The pain is on your body, but the pain is in my heart. I can't bear to part with it. Then, little brother Mushroom, even if you were to kill me, you can't turn back time, right? How about this? In order to make up for the mistakes I've made, I'll atone for my sins with my achievements. I'll tell you about things outside the ghost realm. I guarantee that you'll have an eye-opening experience." The Big Mushroom didn't react for a long time. It was very puzzled. What on earth had this bastard experienced? How did he change from a fierce beast that did not speak a word a day to a chatterbox? Yunchujio naturally would not leave without Buttface. She secretly hid in the dark. Seeing that Buttface was enough to deal with the Big Mushroom, she left again. This fellow thought to himself, "I have to say, Buttface has received all of my true teachings." Yunchujio spent a lot of effort to leave the cave and then floated back to the camp. No one noticed this. Shinjio spent half the night and didn't get up in the morning, so she missed breakfast time. Chapter 44-41 Golden-Eyed Ghost Ho. The people from the second group originally did not care about Yunchujio. Now that they saw that she did not prepare breakfast on time, they immediately started mocking her. "Ingqing Luo, it's fine if you can't help when you hunt, but now that you can't even cook properly, what else can you do? That's right, humans can't be too selfish. Although your elemental energy is low and you can't participate in the hunt, can't you wake up a little earlier to cook?" 2ZG's face was gloomy as he helped Yunchujio with her work. With so many people, he couldn't say anything. On the other hand, Yunchujio's expression was normal, as if she didn't hear anything. After everyone had breakfast, they began to hunt. After a while, someone came over to report, "Team leader, we found an injured golden-eyed ghost Ho ahead. Should we chase after it?" Captain Luo could not help but be overjoyed. The golden-eyed ghost Ho was a rank 35 origin beast, which was equivalent to the 7th layer of the Ghost Clan's origin Saint realm. Generally speaking, even if the people of the second group were added together, they might not be a match for the golden-eyed ghost Ho, but now that it was injured, it was definitely a great opportunity to capture it. One had to know that a golden-eyed ghost Ho was worth more than 100 feathered ghost luans. Captain Luo immediately ordered everyone to immediately chase after the injured golden-eyed ghost Ho in front of them. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. She was afraid that the injured golden-eyed ghost Ho was the bait that the two people mentioned yesterday. They were planning to lure the people from the second group into the demon subduing and killing array. She thought for a moment and moved closer to Captain Luo and said, "Captain, why would an injured golden-eyed ghost Ho appear out of nowhere? Is there something wrong?" After hearing Yun Chujio's words, someone immediately said, "Ingqing Luo, where's your place to speak? Besides, what could be wrong with it?" "That's right. There are so many of us. Even if something happens, there's nothing to worry about. It's fine if you're timid and afraid of death, but you still want to drag us down with your slander. As expected, the heart of a woman is the most poisonous." Although Captain Luo did not say anything unpleasant, his tone was a little impatient as he said, "You don't have to care about this. Just follow closely behind and don't get hurt." Yun Chujio secretly rolled her eyes. As expected, it was difficult to persuade those damn ghosts with good words. Since that was the case, then let them learn their lesson. Tu Ziji wanted to be with Yun Chujio, but Yun Chujio dragged him to the side and said something. Tu Ziji nodded and then caught up with the others. Only Yun Chujio landed behind them and slowly walked forward. Seeing that everyone had gone far away, Yun Chujio walked into the grass and transformed into a stomach-patterned ghost butterfly and flew in the direction that everyone had left. Of course, this fellow did not get very close. He only landed on a branch and watched from afar. Captain Luo and the others finally caught up with the golden-eyed ghost Ho. After fighting for an hour, although many people were injured, they still killed the golden-eyed ghost Ho. Everyone was elated. Selling this golden-eyed ghost Ho was a considerable income. Captain Luo was also very excited. With this golden-eyed ghost Ho, he could return to the base and be proud in front of the other team leaders. Someone curled his lips and said, "That Ingqing Luo said there was no danger, no trap? Tiske, what nonsense." "That's right, where is the danger? Where is the trap? She's probably afraid of being bitten by a snake for 10 years. Her courage is even smaller than a needle's nose." Fortunately, our group leader is wise and didn't listen to her slander. Otherwise, we would have suffered a great loss. Chapter 44-42 Crisis. Just as everyone was mocking them, a light suddenly appeared around them. Immediately after, thick vines grew out from the ground and began to entangle everyone. Those vines had sharp thorns on them and grew at a rapid speed. In the blink of an eye, they had entwined many people. That was not all. Many wind blades suddenly appeared from all directions and swept towards everyone. The group was thrown into chaos. Miserable cries and screams mixed together. Almost half of the people were injured in an instant. If not for the large number of people, they would have died long ago. Captain Luo was still calm. He commanded a part of the people to be responsible for cutting the vines, and the other part to strike the wind blades. The situation was finally under control for the time being. Some people could not wait to leave this place, but they discovered that they were blocked by the barrier. No matter how they attacked with their swords and sabers, they had no way of getting out. Captain Luo's head buzzed. "Oh no, there's a formation here. We've fallen into a trap." As soon as Captain Luo finished speaking, wild laughter could be heard from not far away. Tiske, they're really a bunch of idiots. Don't you think that it's such a coincidence that you've encountered an injured golden-eyed ghost Ho? It's all because of their greed. They thought they got a great deal, but they didn't know that it was our bait. They're as stupid as pigs. If they weren't so stupid, we would have to wait for a few more days. Isn't this what we wanted? Ah. More than a dozen masked men walked in front of the trapped people while mocking them. Who are you people?" Captain Luo cried out in surprise. Ordinary people didn't know that there were masked men around Princess Mayenne. When Princess Mayenne appeared in front of people, it was another group of people. "You don't have to care about who we are. You just need to know that you won't live today. I advise you to just commit suicide. It will save us both trouble," the leader said. Captain Luo was naturally unwilling to just sit and wait for death. He said, "Everyone, we are all members of the Royal Hunting Group. If you really kill us, I'm afraid you won't be able to be kind. How about this, we will give all the money we have to you and let us leave." Those people wearing masks laughed loudly as if they had heard a funny joke. "How stupid. We spent so much effort to catch you, how could we let you go? Cut the crap, either you commit suicide or wait to be killed by the formation." At this moment, Captain Luo was almost regretting his decision. If he had known this would happen, he would have listened to Ingqing Luo and would not have fallen to such a state. But what was the point of saying all this now? When he thought of this, Captain Luo looked around but did not find Yin Chujio. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He reckoned that Qing Luo had already fled for her life. This could not be blamed on her. If it were him, he would also choose to flee for his life. After all, she was not a match for these people alone. At this moment, Tu Ziji said coldly, "Even if you want us to commit suicide, you should at least let us be clear ghosts, right? Who exactly are you people? Why do you want to kill us? What good would it do you if you kill us? If it's Tu Kai, we will give you the money. But if it's revenge, we can't all be your enemies, right?" The leader snorted coldly and said, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? You will understand when you go underground. None of you will survive today." Chapter 44-43 was getting worse and worse. Tu Ziji recalled what Yin Chujio had told him before. He sneered and said, "If you don't want to tell me, then I'll guess. Since you dare to touch a member of our royal hunting group, the backer behind you must not be simple. Even the aristocratic families don't dare to make a direct enemy of our royal hunting group. Could it be that your master is a member of the royal family?" Those masked people didn't expect Tu Ziji to guess the royal family. They couldn't help but feel a little flustered and their bodies tensed up. "Your reaction is so big. I must have guessed correctly. We were originally working for the royal family, but the royal family wants to kill us. It really makes people laugh." Tu Ziji said self-deprecatingly. The leader was about to speak, but Tu Ziji didn't give him a chance to speak. He continued, "Our mission this time was given by Princess Mei Yan. I think the person behind your back is Princess Mei Yan, right? Princess Mei Yan is the leader of our royal hunting group. If we make a mistake, we can be punished directly. There's no need to deceive us to come here. If that's the case, Princess Mei Yan must have some ulterior motive. It's funny. We worked hard for Princess Mei Yan, but in the end, we were deceived to come here. It's really chilling." The masked men could no longer remain calm. Wasn't this hunter's insight too strong? His analysis was almost accurate. The short guard who was eavesdropped by Yin Chujio said impatiently, "Since you're about to die anyway, there's no harm in telling you. That's right, Princess Mei Yan sent us here to take your lives. It's your honor that your blood can contribute to the princess." It was too late for the leader to stop them. The short man had already spoken. However, he thought about it. These people wouldn't live anyway. It didn't matter even if he knew. Captain Luo and the others simply couldn't believe their ears. What? It was actually a trap set by Princess Mei Yan? What? Why did she do this? And what did that person mean by blood? Could it be that Princess Mei Yan wanted their blood? Tu Ziji roared, "Brothers, we risked our lives for the royal family. In the end, Princess Mei Yan used such despicable means to take our lives. We can't let them succeed like this. If we attack the barrier together, we will definitely be able to break this formation." The crowd was naturally unwilling to die. After hearing Tu Ziji's words, they resisted the attack of the formation while attacking the barrier at the same time. However, there wasn't much effect. The masked guards looked at the crowd struggle with disdain and said arrogantly, "Just give up struggling. This is the demon subduing and killing formation. With just you? There's no way to break the formation. If you can contribute a little to the princess, then you deserve to die. Don't struggle. The sooner you die, the sooner we can finish the mission." Captain Luo and the others were so angry that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. However, there was no way to break the array. If this continued, it would not be long before they were attacked by the array and died. Tu Ziji's heart was like a beeping dog. He thought to himself, "Little Jiao, do something. If they were to delay any longer, they would all be dead." Hei Xinjiao was watching with relish from the tree branch. If she had appeared earlier, how could Captain Luo and the others be so grateful to her? Humans would only be grateful when they were in despair. This fellow felt that he was becoming more and more evil. He must have been led astray by Buttface. Chapter 44-44 Luring the tiger away from the mountain. Hei Xinjiao felt that the time was right, so she flew to a hidden place. After transforming into a human form, she strolled over slowly. Immediately, a masked guard noticed her and exclaimed, There's another one who escaped. However, she's really stupid. She actually came to us of her own accord. She's courting death." Captain Luo and the others did not feel much when they saw Yin Chujio. This was because they felt that Yin Chujio was also courting death by coming here. She was really stupid. "I heard you guys say just now that Princess Mei Yan wants our blood? This is really strange. Princess Mei Yin isn't an origin beast. Why would she want to drink our blood? Has she gone mad? Yun Chujio asked curiously. Don't talk so much nonsense. Stupid girl, I'll send you on your way right now. That short bodyguard pounced towards Yun Chujio. Their origin energy was mostly at the 5th to 6th level of the Origin Saint Realm. How could they put Yun Chujio, who was only at the 1st level of the Origin Saint Realm, in their eyes? Seeing that short bodyguard chasing after her, Yun Chujio immediately ran away. The short bodyguard naturally wouldn't let her go, chasing closely behind. The leading guard frowned. However, he felt that the short guard had no problem taking down Yun Chujio. Hence, he did not send anyone else to help. Although Yun Chujio's elemental energy was low, she ran very fast. That short guard could not catch up with her. He was simply angered to death. The most infuriating thing was that he lost her after chasing her. He discovered that that wretched girl seemed to have disappeared into thin air. He actually could not find her no matter how hard he tried. He had no choice but to return to his original spot dejectedly. The person in the lead asked, "Is it solved?" "Boss, no. That stinky girl escaped." The short guard stammered. "What? She actually escaped? She already heard what happened to the princess just now. How could you let her escape? You trash." The person in the lead said in exasperation. The short guard was being scolded like a dog. At this moment, waves of beast roars came from the surroundings, and the ground began to tremble. Those guards immediately panicked. What was going on? Could it be that the origin beasts were rebelling? While they were still panicking, several origin beasts had already run over. Moreover, because this was the depths of the valley, the ones that ran over were mostly high-level origin beasts. Those origin beasts seemed a little confused, but when they saw the guards and the people trapped inside the array formation, they immediately perked up. This was a delicacy that was within their mouths. It would be a waste not to eat. Immediately, those high-level origin beasts attacked those guards. Although those guards' elemental energy wasn't low, they weren't able to withstand the attacks of so many origin beasts. Very quickly they fell into a disadvantageous position. The short guard shouted, "Boss, in any case they won't be able to break this formation for a while. Why don't we temporarily hide from the limelight and wait until they are almost dead before coming over to collect their blood?" The leader had no other choice but to nod his head in agreement and escape with his subordinates. What made them depressed was that those origin beasts were chasing closely behind. Clearly they were fighting against them. They did not know that Zingius light fog had been floating behind them. Those origin beasts that were summoned by the Guaichao were naturally chasing closely behind them. Yun Chujio had lured the guards out for more than 10 miles before she floated back. When the trapped people saw Yun Chujio reappear, they could not help but have a glimmer of hope. However, it was only a glimmer. They could not open the array. What could Ing Ching Luo do? Chapter 44-45, Evil Formation. How would they know that although Hei Xingjiu had no way, the black bead did? After the black bead swallowed the bead from the prison of heritage, it was in a good mood. Therefore Yun Chujio did not waste much effort and the black bead agreed. Yun Chujio directed Tu Ziji to find the core of the formation. After everyone worked together to break the core of the formation, the demon subduing and killing formation was also broken. Captain Luo and the rest, especially those who had mocked Yun Chujio previously, were filled with shame. No one had expected that the trash they looked down on the most would save them in the end. Almost as soon as everyone had escaped, the masked guards returned. When they saw that everyone had actually broken the array, they simply couldn't believe it. The short guard saw Yun Chujio and pointed at her. "Boss, it's most likely this damn girl's doing. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have been able to break the demon subduing and killing array." The expression of the leader was very ugly. The plan that was supposed to be foolproof now had such a big flaw. If they couldn't kill all these people once they returned to the royal hunting group, it would be extremely disadvantageous to the princess. Therefore these people had to die here. Thinking of this, he looked at the other guards and said, "Set up the array." The guards immediately took off their masks, and everyone was surprised to find that their faces were covered with strange patterns. "Sacrifice my soul to the ghost ancestor. Use my body as the formation. Kill." As the guards chanted, the patterns on their faces emitted a black light that shot into the sky. In an instant, Yun Chujio and the others were trapped in a black cage. The guards all turned into black stone pillars and became a part of the formation. Wisps of black fog drifted out from the stone pillars. A hunter was caught by a wisp of black fog and instantly turned into a pool of blood. Everyone was terrified. This evil formation was too terrifying. Yun Chujio frowned. No wonder these guards always wore masks. It turned out that they had a lot on their faces. Princess Mayenne, this old witch, had mastered all kinds of evil techniques. She had no idea where she had learned them from. They were really abnormal. This evil formation was obviously at the expense of those guards. She had to admit that she had a way to control it. She actually made those people willingly die for her. However, she did not have time to think too much right now. It was more important to think of a way to break the formation. Therefore, this fellow said to the black bead in a flattering manner, "Glass ball, no, dear little Juju, help little sister find the formation's eye." The black bead trembled slightly. Although it could not speak, Yun Chujio could feel its emotions. She could not help it. Shinjio was furious. This was eating for nothing. She had already swallowed 4 small beads, but she was still so useless. This fellow was really anxious now. She could not die, but 2ZG could not. Moreover, she still had use for these people. If she died just like that, wouldn't she lose a lot of money? At this moment, a series of miserable screams could be heard. The black fog was very difficult to deal with. If they were to delay any longer, none of these people would be able to survive. Yun Chujio was running around anxiously. However, the large brick came uninvited and flew out from between her eyebrows shamelessly. Although it was a time of life and death, Captain Luo and the others were still slightly dazed. How did King Luo's spirit become the large brick? The spirit soul released by Captain Luo and the others had already been corroded beyond recognition by the black fog. However, the large brick floated in the air a few times and was actually not damaged at all. Moreover, the black fog seemed to be very afraid of the large brick. Wherever the large brick went, the black fog would automatically avoid it. Chapter 44-46. The power of the big brick. Zinjia's eyes lit up. It seemed that this scammer was the nemesis of the black fog. However, it was also true. The big brick turned out to be some red fog. It must be related to the black fog. Yun Chujio changed her bad attitude toward the big brick from a few days ago and said extremely gently, "Big brick, no, my little brick, do you have a way to break the array? I knew that you are 10,000 times stronger than that scammer buttface. As long as you help Master break the array, Master will only dote on you from now on." Big brick was flattered so much that it couldn't even float. It was so crooked that it almost fell to the ground. The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. There was probably no master in the world who was more miserable than her. Each and every one of them had to be coaxed before they were willing to work. Who exactly was she following? "Little brick, I promise you. As long as you can break the formation, I will play chase with you, okay? Don't you like this game the most? Then help me break the formation." When the big brick heard this, it immediately emitted a dazzling red light. The black fog disappeared almost instantly without a trace. This was not the end. The big brick valiantly smashed at the barrier. Seeing this, Yun Chujio quickly ordered everyone to help attack the barrier. Everyone was stunned. This huge brick was too powerful. Everyone did not have time to think and quickly used all their strength to attack the barrier. Finally, a crack appeared on the barrier and it was completely broken. As the barrier disappeared, the guard who had turned into a black stone pillar turned into pools of black water, emitting a foul smell. The plants around the black water instantly withered, and even some plants in the distance seemed to slowly lose their vitality. The group didn't dare to stay here for long, and quickly retreated toward the entrance of the valley. After running for more than 10 miles, they finally let out a sigh of relief. Seeing Yun Chujio, the group wanted to say something, but they hesitated. They felt guilty, grateful, and somewhat inquisitive. "Wait for me at the entrance of the valley. I have some matters to attend to. I will be back in about 10 days. We will talk about the specifics when I return. In addition, if you want to live, wait for me obediently. Otherwise, no one will be able to save you." After saying this, Yun Chujio did not bother with everyone's reactions. She directly rushed into the depths of the valley. Everyone was confused, but they really did not dare to disobey. They were not stupid. Since those guards were Princess Mei Yan's people, if they rashly returned to the royal hunting group, they would definitely be in deep trouble. However, Yun Chujio had left while 2ZG was there. Everyone looked at him. He shrugged his shoulders. "Don't look at me. I don't know anything. Let's wait for her to come back." Now, 2ZG's position in the group was no longer the same as before. Although everyone was extremely curious, they didn't dare to force him. They could only suppress their curiosity and wait for Yun Chujio's return. Yun Chujio quickly entered the cave. Before she even got close to the stone room with the heaven soul water, she heard Buttface's voice. Brother Mushroom, let me tell you something interesting. You don't know that my master is a pervert. Do you know the lord of the nightmare race, Xingzun? I was tortured miserably by the little fairy. She took advantage of me for no reason. However, she still hasn't been able to catch up with you. Don't you think it's quite miserable? Ahaha. Chapter 44-47. Turning over a new leaf and becoming a dog again. Buttface was laughing so hard that he was about to roll on the ground. He had been holding back these words for a long time. He didn't dare to say them. He was about to turn into a mushroom. Most importantly, he didn't have anyone to confide in. If he told the little blackbird and the others that those wastrels would definitely report them to the Xiaohanio, then he would die without a burial place. This big mushroom couldn't speak, and it wasn't the Xiaohanio's spiritual pet, so it was the most appropriate to tell it. Just as Buttface was laughing complacently, he suddenly shivered. He stared at his dog eyes and looked around. When he saw the wisp of light mist floating in the air, his head buzzed. The first thought that appeared in Buttface's head was, he was dead for sure. Oh my god. How did the little fairy come back so quickly? Were Princess Mayans guards a bunch of pigs? How could they be taken care of so quickly? It's over, it's over. The little fairy must have heard what he said just now, and she must be very angry because the light white fog had turned black. Could she still see the sun tomorrow? Buttface was quick-witted and he rolled his dog eyes and fainted. Xingzhou was so angry that she was about to die. As the saying goes, one should never hit a person in the face, and one should never expose a person's shortcomings. This Buttface was literally sprinkling salt on her wound. If she didn't peel off a layer of skin today, her name wouldn't be Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio kicked Buttface onto the stone wall. Buttface fell with a choking sound and pretended to wake up. Little fairy? You're back? I must have been sleepwalking just now. I didn't say anything crazy, did I? Buttface blinked his dog eyes and said. Yun Chujio sneered, make it up, keep making it up. Buttface knew that it was useless to continue acting. He knelt on the ground and reached out his front paw to slap his dog face a few times. I told you to be mean. I told you to make it up. You really can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. Little fairy, I was wrong. Please spare me this time. I will definitely turn over a new leaf and become a dog again in the future. Seeing that Yun Chujio did not have any reaction, Buttface knew that his anger had not subsided yet. He sobbed and said, Little fairy, please forgive me on account of my young and ignorant age. Xingzhou was furious. Young and ignorant? How could you be so shameless? You are about to turn into a fossil and you are still young? Seeing that Yun Chujio's anger was still increasing, Buttface sobbed again and said, Little fairy, I said that because I was jealous. As a single dog, I was jealous of you and your majesty's sweetness, so I made up some nonsense. Isn't there a saying? Jealousy makes people ugly. I was blinded by jealousy just now. Little fairy, please forgive a miserable single dog. I've lived for so many years and I don't even have a lover. I'm the saddest one. Yun Chujio glared at Buttface. I don't have time to deal with you now. When this matter is over, he'll let you know what it's like to live a life worse than death. Buttface heaved a sigh of relief. No matter what, this hurdle in front of him was over. As for what would happen in the future, he would deal with it in the future. Yun Chujio glanced at the large metal basins. There were only 3 drops of heavenly soul water. It was not that Yun Chujio's eyesight was good, but the heaven soul water was different from ordinary water. When it fell into the basin, it would not disperse. Instead, it remained in the shape of a water drop. She could even pick it up with her hands. Chapter 44-48. Tuck your tail between your legs and become a dog. Yun Chujio frowned. According to this speed, it would take at least 10 days to gather enough heaven soul water. However, it was not bad to use this time to cultivate. Therefore, Yun Chujio directly swallowed the 3 drops of heaven soul water and began to cultivate. Buttface was extremely obedient and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. It couldn't be helped since it had a guilty conscience. Yun Chujio could not be bothered with it, so she made it swallow the heaven soul water and cultivate together. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Yun Chujio's elemental energy had also soared from the 1st level to the 8th level of the Yuan Venerate realm. Moreover, with the help of the heaven soul water, she would continue to break through after the stages. Dog 2 rolled and climbed up to the 30th level, which was equivalent to the second level of the Ghost Clan's Yuan Sheng, which was much higher than Yun Chujia's elemental energy. This was mainly because it had cultivated elemental energy to begin with, so it naturally cultivated faster than Yun Chujio. If it was in the past, this fellow would have been showing off in front of Yun Chujio long ago, but how would it dare to show off now? It could only obediently tuck its tail between its legs and act like a dog. Although Yun Chujio felt that the Heaven Soul water she had collected was still not enough, time was limited, so she could only do so. Before leaving, Dog 2 was very reluctant to part with Big Mushroom. Yun Chujio said coldly, "Since you are so reluctant to part with it, then you can stay here." Dog 2 immediately swore, "Little fairy, what are you saying? Dog 2 will follow you for the rest of my life. I will never leave you." Yun Chujio kicked him, then put him into her origin beast bag and left the cave. When they reached the exit of the valley, they met up with Captain Luo and the others. Captain Luo and the others were looking forward to it. After pondering for a few days, they had guessed that Yingqing Luo must have changed her core, but they didn't know what she was. Yun Chujio glanced at them and said, "I won't beat around the bush with you. I also learned by chance that the current Princess Mei Yan is a fake. She is the Princess Mei Yan from 10,000 years ago." Yun Chujio roughly told them what she knew, but she did not mention the identity of the mute girl. "I don't need to tell you that if we don't do anything and return to the royal hunting group, then only death awaits us." Captain Luo and the others knew that Yun Chujio was right. Now that they knew the secret of Princess Mei Yan, she would definitely kill them to silence them. However, Princess Mei Yan's power was huge. How could they keep their lives? "Why don't we disband on the spot?" Chapter 44-49 The mute girl went missing. The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. "I do have an idea, but I don't know if you guys dare to do it." Captain Luo didn't say it out loud, he just asked, "What idea?" "Let's pretend that nothing happened and go back to the royal hunting group to report to them normally," Yun Chujio said indifferently. "What?" Everyone was instantly dumbfounded. Report back to the royal hunting group normally? Wasn't this courting death? Yun Chujio laughed lightly. "I know what you guys are thinking, but the most dangerous place is the safest place. Those guards have all died. Princess Mei Yan won't be able to find the truth for a while, so she won't act rashly. And we can use this time to completely incite some people. I believe that most of the people in the royal hunting group won't support that old witch. They just lack an opportunity. As long as we do our best, we won't be afraid that no one will support us. You can choose whether to hide in fear or to uphold justice." The hunters were hesitant because there was a risk in choosing either method. Yun Chujio did not rush them and calmly waited for their final decision. After a moment, Tu Ziji said, "Instead of being afraid, why not take a risk? If we topple the royal family, we can be considered to have contributed greatly to the founding of the country in the future. Our family will be distinguished and noble in the future, and our lives will not be in vain." Everyone could not help but feel a little moved. Who was willing to be a hunter for the rest of their lives? Even if they were hunters of the Imperial Hunting Group, they would still be hunters, right? Hence, some of the braver ones followed suit. Everyone had the mentality of following the crowd, so they began to make a racket and were willing to follow Yun Chujio back to the Imperial Hunting Group. Yun Chujio nodded and said, "We can't have countless dragons. Who do you think is better to be the leader?" "I think I'm quite suitable, what do you think?" Although everyone felt that Yun Chujio was a little thick-skinned, she was really the best candidate. Yun Chujio gave some instructions before everyone returned to the royal hunting group. Yun Chujio did not find the mute girl when she arrived at the residence. She thought that she had gone to chop firewood, so she did not care. However, the mute girl still did not return at night, so she was a little anxious. After asking the servants in the kitchen, she found out that the mute girl had been missing for a few days, and no one knew where she went. Yun Chujio's heart sank. She did not want anything to happen to the mute girl, whether it was for personal or professional reasons. Did she run away or was she harmed by Princess Mei Yan? However, she thought that the mute girl had a lot of ghost talismans, so nothing should happen to her. It was very likely that she found something was wrong and went to the flat area to look for Short Fatty, then returned to the base area to see Xiao Wuhan together. She wanted to return to the base area to take a look, but she could not get away now. She could only wait for the matter to temporarily come to an end before she went to look for the mute girl's whereabouts. Captain Luo acted as if nothing had happened and handed over the 10 purple-feathered ghost wands. In private, he revealed some things about the Tiandang Valley to a few team leaders who were on good terms with him, to test their reactions. Of course, He Xingjiu asked him to make things more complicated. He said that Princess Meiyan needed the blood of 10,000 cultivators above the second layer of the original Saint Realm. Perhaps, the entire royal hunting group would be killed in the future. The hunters of the second team also spread the news. Soon, the rumors swept the entire royal hunting group. Chapter 4450 might as well be reversed. The rumors grew more and more intense. As the rumors spread too quickly, it was already too late for the captain of the royal hunting group to stop them. Everything would leave a trace. As long as one was suspicious, they would remember things that they had neglected in the past. Only then did everyone feel that Princess Mei Yan's style of doing things in the past 3 years was indeed very different from the past. In the past, Princess Mei Yan was just a figurehead and would not participate in the matters of the royal hunting group at all. However, in the past 3 years, Princess Mei Yan had frequently made them carry out all sorts of strange missions. People at Captain Chi's level knew more inside information than others. Although some of the mission leaders did not say who gave the orders, it just so happened that this Captain Murong was personally appointed by Princess Mei Yan 3 years ago. No one would believe that there was nothing fishy about this. Yun Chuzhou was full of bad ideas. She remembered that Tu Ziji had seen Captain Murong talking to the masked guards before, so she could not help but scheme. She transformed into the flattering guard by Princess Maiyan's side and came to see Captain Murong in the middle of the night. Although Captain Murong found it strange that Yun Chujia's elemental energy was low, he did not suspect that there was someone pretending to be her. Commander Murong asked with some urgency, "Sir, are those rumors true? Could it be that 200 people aren't enough? Does the princess need the blood of 10,000 people?" Yun Chujio snorted coldly, "So what if there are 10,000 people? Don't worry, the princess will not mistreat you." Commander Murong said somewhat timidly, "Sir, previously, the princess said that those things were prepared for the ghost ancestor. Why is it now that the princess wants to use them for herself?" Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. This Captain Murong was really stupid. No wonder Princess Mei Yan had chosen him to be the captain. He was really easy to fool. You don't have to talk so much nonsense. Think of a way to trick 2 more groups to go to the bottom of Demon's Grimace. Our princess wants to use their blood to cultivate. If you delay the princess' important matter, you'll just have to wait for death." Yun Chujio said arrogantly. Captain Murong said with some hesitation, "Must we do this? If 2 groups die at once, won't that confirm those rumors?" "So what if it's confirmed? Those cowards still dare to go against the princess and the imperial family? In the princess' eyes they're just like pigs and dogs. If they die, so be it." Yun Chujio said arrogantly. The few captains who were secretly hiding outside the tent were so angry that they were about to explode. They could not bear it anymore and immediately rushed into the tent with a roar. Captain Murong was so scared that he collapsed on his chair. He was able to become the captain because Princess Mei Yan had protected him. Otherwise he would only be a captain. Now that the matter was exposed, he was immediately scared out of his wits. However, Yun Chujio was not afraid at all. Her attitude was still arrogant and domineering. "Since you heard it, it saved us a lot of trouble. As long as you work hard for the princess, you will be rewarded. However, the princess urgently needs the blood of high-level cultivators. Which one of you is willing to send 2 teams to Demon's Grimace?" The team leaders were so angry that they were twitching. At first, they thought that the rumors could not be trusted. But now, it seemed that Princess Mei Yan really intended to use the blood of tens of thousands of people to cultivate. She was simply a devil. Captain Chi gritted his teeth and said, "Brothers, now that things have come to this point, if we still don't make a sound, we will be sitting ducks. Why don't we rebel today? Capture the 2 of them and use them to announce to the world that we have made a name for ourselves." Chapter 4451. Return to the base region. After hearing Captain Chi's words, the others immediately attacked Captain Murong and Yun Chujio, trying to control them and give them an explanation. Naturally, Yun Chujio would not obediently surrender. She took out a stack of talismans and threw them out. She arrogantly shouted, "You bunch of trash. To tell you the truth, our princess already has a foolproof plan. None of you idiots will survive." After He Xingjiu finished shouting, she ran away. Naturally, no one could catch her because this fellow quickly transformed into Ing Qingluo's appearance. No matter how hard they dug, they would not be able to find her. Captain Qi and the others were naturally very disappointed that they could not catch Yun Chujio. Fortunately, they managed to control Captain Murong, so they had a witness. Recalling Yun Chujio's vicious words, everyone immediately gathered together to discuss. Since that person had already said those words, there was no time to delay. They had to think of a way to get rid of Princess Meiyan and overthrow the royal family. Otherwise, no one would be able to survive. Immediately, the royal hunting squad began a huge purge. All of Captain Murong's direct descendants were killed, and the matter of Princess Meiyan was also spread. He Xinjiu secretly watched the development of the situation and felt that she was awesome. If it wasn't for her adding fuel to the fire behind the scenes, how could these people resist? Most people would only resist when their own lives were in danger. What this fellow wanted to do the most now was to think of a way to become the leader of the royal hunting group. However, this was too difficult. She didn't have the qualifications or the elemental energy. It wasn't as if those people's brains were damaged. They definitely wouldn't approve of her. What should she do? This fellow thought about it and decided to return to the base domain to look for the mute girl first. The mute girl's identity was special. Captain Qi and the others would definitely let the mute girl become the leader for the sake of their reputation and for the sake of balancing each other. In this way, she could use the mute girl to achieve her ultimate goal of obtaining leadership. Yun Chujio thought of this, and after bidding farewell to Tu Ziji, she left the royal hunting group and rushed to the base domain. He Xinjiu could change her appearance at will, so she did not encounter any obstacles on the way. 10 days later, He Xinjiu arrived at the thunder hunting group's base. The moment she saw the mute girl, He Xinjiu's worried heart was finally relieved. It turned out that after Yun Chujio left, Princess Meiyan once again sent guards to the royal hunting group to investigate the situation of the people who went to Crest Mountain that day, and they had to investigate each and every one of them. The mute girl was afraid that she would be seen through, so she took the opportunity to cut firewood and escape to the level domain. Then she went to the Heavenly Phoenix hunting regiment to find the short fatty. Under the escort of the short fatty, she went to the base domain and found Sha Wuhan. The short fatty said with a face full of grief and indignation, "Little Jiu, you're too ungrateful. You and Tu Ziji left just like that, leaving me alone in the Heavenly Phoenix hunting regiment. Do you know how miserable I've been these days?" Yun Chujio laughed dryly, "Second brother, I had no choice at that time. If word got out, it would be terrible. Moreover, second brother, you've always been vigilant. I believe that you'll definitely be safe and sound. The facts prove that my guess was right. Second brother, not only can you protect yourself, but you also sent Miss Mei Yen to the base region. You're indeed a hero without equal." When the short and fat man heard Yun Chujio's words, he immediately threw his little depression to the back of his mind and started to brag about his heroic deeds. Chapter 44-52. Was she eyeing him? Yun Chujio, Sha Wuhan, and the others were speechless. None of them had the patience to listen to the short and fat man's bragging. However, Yun Chujio was surprised to find that the mute girl, who was also Princess Mei Yen, was actually listening with great interest, and her eyes were sparkling. Yun Chujio's heart was like a beeping dog. Was this a bastard eyeing a mung bean? Wasn't this like a fresh flower being placed on something? However, after thinking about it, she understood why Princess Mei Yen had such a bad taste in short fatty. Princess Mei Yen had suffered a huge blow after experiencing such a huge change. Ever since she was in trouble, she had been bullied and neglected. After she arrived at the Pingqing realm, Short Fatty had escorted her all the way to the Pingqing realm. He must have been extremely caring towards her along the way. In addition to that, they had been living together day and night. Naturally they had a good impression of each other. Furthermore, although the Short Fatty looked average, his personality was carefree and optimistic. To Princess Mei Yen, who had always been in the dark world, this was as attractive as the scorching sun. It was not difficult to understand why she had taken a liking to the Short Fatty. However, it seemed that the Short Fatty had not discovered Princess Mei Yan's feelings for him. Otherwise, he would not have called her his niece. From Xiao Yuan's point of view, there was nothing wrong with the Short Fatty calling her his niece. Yun Chujio saw Princess Mei Yan's embarrassed and angry expression when she heard the Short Fatty call her his niece. She almost laughed out loud. No wonder this Short Fatty had always been single. His EQ was truly exceptional. Yun Chujio gave the mute girl 3 drops of heavenly soul water and divided the heavenly soul water to Xiao Wuhan and the others. After the mute girl swallowed the heavenly soul water, her origin energy soared, unexpectedly rising from the 7th level of the origin venerable realm to the 2nd level of the origin sage realm. Moreover, it seemed that her cultivation speed would be very fast in the future. As Sha Wuhan had previously been crippled of his origin energy and cultivated anew, the effect was very obvious. His origin energy also rushed to the second level of the origin sage realm. Although the effect was also obvious for the others, due to the reason of their constitution, the increase in their levels wasn't particularly great, but it was enough to make them go wild with joy. During this period, Yun Chujio squandered and swallowed 3 drops of heaven's soul water. Finally, she rolled and climbed up to the second layer of Yuanxing, finally not so useless anymore. Yun Chujio felt that it was about time, so she decided to bring Princess Mei Yan and Sha Wuhan back to the royal hunting group. The short fatty was anxious. He secretly found Yun Chujio and begged, "Little Jiu, do you still have heaven's soul water? Can you give second brother another drop?" Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. "I do have it, but haven't I already given you your share? Why do you still want it?" The short and fat man thickened his skin and said, "Little Jiu, you only brought Princess Meiyan and eldest brother. You're too lonely. If you bring me along you'll have more help, right?" Yun Chujio laughed lightly. "Second brother, we're not here to play around. That Princess Meiyan is very strange. If we go to the Imperial region we might lose our lives. Are you sure you want to go?" The short fatty gritted his teeth and said, "That old woman caused Mei Yan's niece to be so miserable. If I don't kill her, it will be difficult to resolve the hatred in my heart. Little Jiu, just secretly give second brother a drop. Second brother will never tell anyone. I beg you." Yun Chujio sighed in her heart. The power of love was indeed very great. It actually made this cowardly short fatty become brave. Of course at this moment, the short fatty might only feel that he was bursting with a sense of justice and did not realize that this was the budding of love. In order to satisfy her bad taste as a matchmaker, Hei Shinjio immediately generously gave the short fatty a drop of heaven soul water. Chapter 4453. She was the real Princess Mei Yan. The short and fat man was extremely grateful to Yun Chujio. He kept the heaven's soul water and prepared to break through on the way. The next morning, the 4 of them left the Thunder Hunting Group's base and headed to the Imperial region. They didn't encounter any problems when they passed through the flat region. However, when they reached the border of the Imperial region, they discovered that the defenses were much tighter than before. Yun Chujio did not rashly let Princess Mei Yan and the others go forward. Instead, she transformed into a stomach-patterned ghost butterfly and flew over to investigate the situation. The information that she obtained from the few words of those people caused Yun Chujio's heart to sink. She did not expect that after only 20 days, the situation would take a sharp turn for the worse. First, the imperial family and Princess Mei Yan came out one after another to refute the rumors. They said that those were just rumors and that they were all false accusations. Following that, the crown prince of the Yan clan Aog brought 10,000 elite soldiers of the Yan clan to the imperial city. Together with the imperial guards of the imperial family, they trapped the imperial hunting regiment at Crest Mountain. After that, the imperial family began to persuade them to surrender. Some of the hunters who were originally fence-sitters began to surrender. If it wasn't for Captain Chi and the others being alert, they would probably have been killed in one fell swoop from both inside and outside. Yun Chujio couldn't help but wonder, was that Aog deceived by Princess Mei Yan, or did he have other motives? He actually brought 10,000 elites over to help? No matter what, she had to go over and take a look first. Hence, Yun Chujio transformed into a small leader who guarded the border and brought Princess Mei Yan and the other 2 into the imperial region. The 4 of them galloped all the way until they reached the vicinity of Jiguan Mountain on this day. The entrance of Jiguan Mountain had already been occupied by the Nightmare Clan and the royal guards. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to enter. However, this was obviously not a problem for Hei Shinjio. She let the 3 of them hide in a hidden place while she transformed into the stomach-patterned ghost butterfly once again and flew into the enemy's camp. Coincidentally, Princess Mei Yan and Aog had arrived just as she flew into the camp. Princess Mei Yan must have obtained enough fresh blood because her appearance had already recovered, and she was even more beautiful. As for Aog beside her, he was much more reserved than before. His eyes were deep and profound and one could not see his true emotions clearly. Yun Chujio originally wanted to fly directly into Crest Mountain, but now that the 2 of them had arrived, she wanted to eavesdrop on some inside information. Thus, she sneakily landed on the tent and prepared to eavesdrop. After Princess Mei Yan and Aog sat down, They inquired about the progress of the matter and did not say anything more. Then they left. Yun Chujio could not help but feel a little disappointed. She thought that she would be able to hear something important, but she did not expect to be so happy for nothing. Yun Chujio had the intention to follow Princess Mei Yan, but when she thought about the spirit-locking pearl on her body, she gave up the idea. What she relied on was the ability to change at will. If she did not have this trump card, then she would be a weakling. She circled around the camp, locked onto a general and killed him. Then she transformed into his appearance and openly wore a mask to Sha Wuhan and the other two as they passed through the camp. The garrison of the camp discovered that it was too late to chase after them. This was because Yun Chujio and the others had already entered the territory of the royal hunting group. Yun Chujio once again transformed into Ing Qingluo's appearance and shouted at the hunters of the royal hunting group, "The real Princess Mei Yan is here. Aren't you guys going to hurry up and deliver the message to the one who is in charge?" Captain Qi and the others were completely confused when they received the report, but they still came out. Princess Mei Yan took off her mask and revealed her original appearance. Captain Qi and the others were still skeptical. There were too many people in the world who looked similar. How could she prove that she was the real Princess Mei Yan? Chapter 44-54. The Red Skeleton of a Demon. At this moment, Sha Wuhan, who was beside Princess Mei Yan, took off his mask and said to Captain Qi, "Big Brother Qi, you should at least recognize me, right?" "I'm Wuhan." Captain Qi carefully identified him and then said in disbelief, "Wuhan? You're Wuhan kid?" Sha Wuhan's tiger-like eyes were filled with tears as he nodded. "Big Brother Qi, back then you and my big brother had the best relationship. It was thanks to your protection that I was able to save my life back then." Captain Qi only confirmed Sha Wuhan's identity when he saw that Sha Wuhan had told him what had happened back then. Then he asked Princess Mei Yan a few more questions and finally confirmed Princess Mei Yan's identity. Captain Qi and the others were currently worrying about not being able to clear their names. The arrival of Princess Mei Yan and the others was simply too timely. Thus, the position of leader was smoothly handed over to Princess Mei Yan. Of course, this so-called leader position was just an empty title. Yun Chujio did not care about this. Sooner or later, she would secure this empty position. However, before that, she had to go to Hell's Grimace to get the 80 Purine ladies out. They were the best witnesses. Immediately, Yun Chujio went to Hell's Grimace. She first went to the cave that had a blood pool, but found that the cave had already been destroyed. Princess Mei Yan must have known that the matter had been exposed, so she destroyed the evidence in the cave. Yun Chujio went to the front of the Black Cliff again and spent a lot of effort to disperse the vampire bats. Only then did she smear the rippling flowers juice on the stone wall and open the arch door. As soon as she entered, before Yun Chujio could say anything, she heard the red skeleton say, "Little lady, why are you here? Didn't you say that it would be half a year? How long has it been? Why are you here already? If you have nothing else to do, you can go back. I will help you take good care of these young ladies." Young ladies? Yun Chujio suddenly felt that things seemed to have gone astray. Didn't that bone spirit despise those young ladies? Why did she become a young lady now? Cut the crap. I have something important to do. I want to take them away, Yun Chujio said coldly. The red skeleton said tentatively, "Why don't you take half of them away first? There are so many people anyway. You can't use them all, right?" Hearing the red skeleton's words, Yun Chujio felt that something was wrong. Could this damn bone spirit have killed those girls? "Let me in quickly, bone spirit. If I find out that you have done something outrageous, I will beat you to a pulp," Yun Chujio said fiercely. The red skeleton said with a guilty conscience, "What kind of outrageous thing can I do? Besides, even if I have evil intentions, I don't have the ability, do I?" Yun Chujio thought to herself, "This stinky and shameless person is actually a pervert." Fortunately, it was just a skeleton and couldn't do anything bad even if it wanted to. Otherwise, she would have really sent those girls into the jaws of a tiger. The red skeleton was afraid that Yun Chujio would get angry, so it quickly sent Yun Chujio directly to the 18th level of the Prison of Inheritance. Yun Chujio saw the situation in front of her and was so angry that she was amused. She saw the red skeleton lying on a recliner while those girls were hammering their legs, playing music, and some were even performing songs and dances. Damn it, did this damned bone spirit think that it was a local emperor? Besides, you only have 2 legs, why are you hammering? Aren't you afraid of being directly hammered into bone fragments? Chapter 4455. Emptiness and loneliness. The bone spirit that was acting arrogantly felt Yun Chujia's cold gaze. It immediately stood up from the recliner and said with a guilty conscience, "They are all doing this voluntarily. They are all performing some small acts for me to thank me for taking them in. If you don't believe me, you can ask them." Yun Chujio snorted coldly. "I don't have the time. Hurry up and send us out. I still have important things to do." The red skeleton saw that Yun Chujia's expression was not good and was afraid that this little ancestor would come and harm it, so it hurriedly took credit. "Little great aunt, I didn't order them around for nothing. Look at their elemental energy levels. They are much higher than when they came in. Moreover, I even taught them some inheritances. Although it was not a high-grade inheritance, it was still very rare. I did this so that they could help little great aunt when they came out." Yun Chujio did not pay too much attention earlier. Now that she heard the red skeleton's words, she looked at those young girls. Indeed, their elemental energy was a little higher than when they entered. It was likely that the red skeleton had given them some medicinal pills. When she thought about how Yun Chujio had said that she had given them some inheritances, she could not help but have a thought. Although she had managed to subdue the second group, those few people were not enough. Moreover, Princess Mei Yan needed someone to protect her, so these young ladies could be used. Thinking of this, Yun Chujia's attitude towards the red skeleton became a little better. She chuckled and said, "I didn't realize that you were so thoughtful. Since that's the case, I won't come to harm you in the future. You should take care of yourself." When the red skeleton heard Yun Chujia's words, it felt a trace of disappointment in its heart. It scolded itself, "Are you cheap? Isn't it a good thing that this little pervert will never come again? You actually feel a little disappointed. You are simply too cheap." Yun Chujio did not know what the red skeleton was thinking and urged, "Bone spirit, quickly let us out, I still have a lot of things to do." The red skeleton's emotions were complicated as it teleported Yun Chujio and the girls out of the inheritance prison. Sigh, why did it feel so lonely? It was really empty and lonely. After Yun Chujio brought the girls back to the royal hunting group, Princess Mei Yan immediately organized these girls into a small team, and Yun Chujio instantly became the leader of this female team. This way Yun Chujio had the same status as Captain Qi and the others. No matter how dissatisfied they were, since it was Princess Mei Yan's order, they couldn't say anything. However, they didn't think much of Yun Chujio and the women's team. However, after Yun Chujio led the women's team and successfully robbed the enemy camp 3 times, they were completely convinced. Ever since they were besieged, not to mention robbing the other party, it was already good enough not to be robbed by the other party. It seemed that Ying Qingluo and her women's team still had some tricks up their sleeves. During this period of time, Yun Chujio had also thought of a way to spread a lot of news outside through the blockade. Other than some facts, she had also added some things like Princess Mei Yan wanting to use the blood of 100,000 people to cultivate her demonic arts. The Yan clan wanted to take over the ghost region as their own, and there was a lot of explosive news. For a time, rumors spread everywhere. Some of the aristocratic families were already dissatisfied with the Yan clan sending their elites, and now they were even more conflicted. Regardless of whether Princess Mei-Yan's matter was true or not, this was all a matter of their ghost clan. Why would their Yan clan join in? It was obvious that they did not have good intentions. Chapter 4456. The detestable ghost. Following that, Hei Shinjio disguised herself as a general of the Nightmare Clan. She spouted nonsense in the base, such as saying that the Ghost Clan was born lowly and was only fit to carry shoes for the Nightmare Clan. She also said that the Nightmare Clan's territory would become the Nightmare Clan's territory in the future. All in all, she was saying things that made the aristocratic families and the commoners of the Ghost Clan uneasy. After Hei Shinjio said those words that would sow discord, she found an excuse to slip away. At this moment, those aristocratic families couldn't sit still any longer. They all expressed their protest and requested the imperial family to expel the Nightmare Clan from the country. Although Princess Mei Yan wished she could kill all these stumbling blocks, she was still in her fledgling stage and didn't dare to go too far. She could only try her best to appease them. At this moment, she couldn't care less about those people from the imperial hunting group. She only ordered her people to tightly seal the exit of the Crest Mountain. Yun Chujio took the opportunity to return the favor. She made the girls cry at the entrance of the enemy camp. The content of their cries was that Princess Mei Yan was heartless and had ulterior motives. She colluded with the Yan clan to destroy Yun Yun of the Ghost territory. After the initial attack was done, Hei Xingjiu appeared in person. My fellow members of the Ghost Clan, let's not talk about the right and wrong between us. Princess Mian's bringing the Yin clan here is like inviting a wolf into the house. If you continue to be obstinate, the Ghost Realm will fall into the hands of the Nightmare Clan in the end. Do you think that I'm exaggerating? Am I talking nonsense? Look at how the word nightmare is written. One hates a ghost, adding them up they are a nuisance to the Ghost Clan. They are already so brazen. Can't you see their sinister intentions? Princess Mei Yan is a person with 4 souls and 7 bodies. Such a person is especially favored by the ghost ancestor. The final victory will definitely belong to the righteous army led by Princess Mei Yan. As long as you abandon the dark and join the light, you will be the heroes of the Ghost Clan. If you make mistakes again and again, you will be the sinners of the Ghost Clan. Whether you are heroes or sinners is only a matter of your thoughts. You can choose for yourselves. The Nightmare Race members in the encampment were furious. This damn girl was too crafty. She had actually used their race's name as an excuse. Moreover, they did not even know how to refute her words. The hearts of the Ghost Race members wavered. On one hand, the appearance of Princess Mei Yan and those young girls had confirmed Princess Mei Yan's despicable actions. On the other hand, they were very against the Nightmare Race. Naturally, they were not willing to be on their side. As a result, a large number of the Ghost Clan turned against them and sided with Princess Mei Yan. When the news reached Princess Mian's ears, she was almost angered to death. She had someone invite Aog to her palace. Your Highness, I wonder if you have found the general who spoke so arrogantly before? Now, those old fellows from the aristocratic families have repeatedly not forced our Ghost Clan's emperor to expel your Yen clan's army from the country. Do you have any good ideas? Princess Mian's brows were slightly furrowed, and she looked extremely worried. Aoj's expression did not change much. He said indifferently, we have found him, but there's only one corpse left. I originally did not intend to send an army over. Since the princess is in such a difficult position, then our Yen clan's army will withdraw. Princess Mei Yan was furious. She originally thought that Aog was an idiot. She did not expect that after the Yen clan's army had entered the ghost region, they would become difficult to deal with. Princess Mei Yan had a tearful look on her face as she said with a slight sob, Crown Prince, there are many rumors that are slandering me right now. I'm already at a loss. In the future we will be a family and this ghost realm will be yours sooner or later. I would like to request the Crown Prince to take out a charter. Chapter 4457 AOG. A cold smile flashed across Aoj's eyes. However, it disappeared in an instant. He sighed and said, Princess, it's not that I don't pity you. It's mainly because this is an internal matter of your ghost clan. It's not good for me to interfere. However, since you've already said this much, I'll personally bring people to the Crest Mountain to take a look and then discuss the next step. Hearing this, Princess Mei Yan immediately revealed a delighted expression. Then she said shyly, Your Highness, I'll wait for your good news. When the time comes, I'll definitely be grateful to you. As Princess Mei Yan said this, she gave Aog a seductive glance. Aog's eyes instantly became a little infatuated. After a long while he said, Princess, I'll wait for your good news. I'll be leaving first. After Aog left, a cold smile appeared on Princess Mian's face. She had not recovered her strength and did not have sufficient manpower. She could only make use of Aog. With her methods, there was no need to worry that Aog would not take the bait. On the other side, after Aog left the imperial palace, his eyes were filled with coldness. An old witch who had taken over his body still wanted to seduce him? He really overestimated himself. Their nightmare race had their own charm, and as the crown prince of the nightmare race he was even better at it than the average nightmare race. Princess Mei Yan wanted to seduce him? How ridiculous. Mo Wan said from the side, Your Highness, are we really going to help that fake Princess Mei Yan deal with those people from Crest Mountain? Mo Wan had been infatuated with Princess Pian. Later, because the Prince of Hong Kong was too arrogant, Aog directly imprisoned the Prince of Hong Kong, and even Princess Pian Pian. Mo Wan begged bitterly, and Aog finally released Princess Pian. However, the engagement between the two was annulled. Princess Pian's family had lost power, and she was already disheartened with Aog. She was finally moved by Mo Wan's deep affection, and the two later got married. Mo Wan was even more loyal to Aog because of this matter. Therefore this time Aog also brought him to the ghost region. Hearing Mo1's question, Aog sneered, "She's planning to use someone else to kill us. We might as well beat her at her own game. She wants to covet our dark continent and the far west land. What wishful thinking. We can use this opportunity to control the Ghost Realm. After all, the Ghost Realm is obviously more suitable for our nightmare clan than the dark continent or the far west land." Mo1 nodded. In the past they had only read about the Ghost Domain in the ancient records. Unexpectedly, after arriving here, they found that their nightmare clan's cultivation speed would greatly increase after arriving at the Ghost Domain. Such a fat piece of meat. Naturally they wouldn't let it go. Aog and Mo1 brought their elite subordinates to the garrison of the Crest Mountain. Coincidentally, Yun Chujio came to persuade them to surrender. This fellow thought that since he had nothing better to do, he would come over whenever he had nothing better to do. He would come and persuade as many of them as he could. When she saw Aog bringing his men over, she raised her voice. "Io, did you see that? The Crown Prince of the Yen clan has brought his men over again. He wants to take over the military power completely. Tiske, this is like a son-in-law who wants to take over his father-in-law's family's property. How shameless." Mo1 was instantly enraged. "What nonsense are you spouting? You people have ulterior motives to slander Princess Mei Yen and the royal family. You even tried to sow discord between our two races. You're simply distorting the truth." Yun Chujio had long disliked this Mo1. If he had not stared at her back then, she would not have been trapped in the far west. Want to argue with her? I can't torture him to death. Chapter 4458 Side Consort Yun Chujio curled her lips. "I've reversed black and white? You're most likely color blind, right? Or are you completely blind? The real Princess Mei Yen is with us. The one you're talking about is a fake, an old witch who uses human blood to cultivate. Tsk, I see that your Yen clan's crown prince also looks like a human, but you've actually taken a fancy to that old witch? You're really desperate." The ghosts behind Yun Chujio heard Yun Chujio's interesting words and laughed out loud. Mo1 was about to scold her, but Aog waved his hand. Mo1 could only glare at Yun Chujio with hatred and did not say a word. Aog did not say a word. He just kept staring at Yun Chujio. His inquisitive gaze made Hei Shinjio feel a little uneasy. Damn it, could it be that Aog recognized her? That was impossible. Her current appearance was thousands of miles different from before. Not to mention Aog, even people who were familiar with her might not be able to recognize her. How could Aog recognize her? Moreover, how could Aog think that she would come to the Ghost Realm? Therefore, this fellow only felt uneasy for a moment, and then calmly allowed Aog to size her up. She curled the corners of her lips and said with a smile that was not a smile, "If the Crown Prince Aog, although I am as beautiful as a flower, what do you mean by looking at me like that? Could it be that you think that that old witch, Princess Mei Yen, is not good enough for you and are planning to have designs on me?" Aog raised his eyebrows slightly. "Miss Ing is naturally beautiful. Although the position of the main concubine has already belonged to Princess Mei Yen, as long as you obediently surrender, I will take you in as a side concubine of the Crown Prince. How about that?" Hei Xinjia's heart was like a beeping dog. This Aog wanted to take her in as a side concubine just because he saw her once. Could it be that she only had the face of a side concubine? Yun Chujio sneered. "Crown Prince Aog, do you really take yourself seriously? Even if I were to marry anyone, I would not marry you. You clearly know that Princess Mei Yen is a fake, but you still act as an accomplice for the tiger. Clearly you have an ulterior motive. Most likely, it's to occupy the ghost region. How shameless. People like you will not have a good ending. Sooner or later you will die without a burial place." Mo1 was so angry that his face turned red. However, when he saw the expression on his own crown prince's face, it was as if he had bawled a dog. Not only was his own crown prince not angry, he even seemed to be in high spirits. Could it be that His Highness was asking for a scolding? Aog activated the isolation array and said, "I have dispatched another 10,000 elites. It will be easy for me to deal with you people. However, as long as you submit to me, I can help you kill Princess Mei Yen and marry the real Princess Mei Yen. Furthermore, Miss Ing is very much like an old friend of mine. As long as you listen to me obediently, I can make you a noble consort after I succeed the throne in the future." Yun Chujio's heart relaxed. It turned out that this AOG only felt like her. He had scared her to death. She had thought that she would still be recognized even after she had become like this. She said coldly, "Crown Prince AOG, I also want to give you a piece of advice. Don't make the same mistake over and over again. The Ghost Clan and the Yin Clan originally did not interfere with each other, so why do you have to get involved in this muddy water? Furthermore, what is not yours will never be yours. You can just obediently stay in your territory. Why do you have to occupy the Ghost region?" AOJI's expression turned cold. "I only said so much to you because you are similar to my old friend. Since you don't know what's good for you, then there's nothing more to say. Just accept your death." You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.